piercing roar, sending a wave that hurled soldiers backward. The guards didn't stand a chance. Alice rushed to pull the princesses out of danger. The beast's tail came crashing down, aiming to smash through the guard lines, but she summoned a mana shield to block it. The barrier gave just enough time for the princesses to escape. She couldn't believe it. How had a high-level monster ended up this deep into their secured territory? Something wasn't right. Down in the dirt, the princess heard Ashel speak up, vowing to protect them and urging them to come closer. And that's when it hit her. This whole ambush might have been part of his plan, a way to kill them under the cover of chaos. Right then, Cecilia arrived, launching her Wind Blossom spell to drive the monster back briefly. Alice grabbed the princess's hand, trying to lead her to safety. Something felt horribly off. Back when he looked at Violet, there had been real bloodlust behind his eyes. She glanced back and saw him standing next to the dragon like he belonged there. She shouted his name, telling him to watch out. A barrier flared up around Ashel, launching the monster backward with force. He clicked his tongue in irritation after noticing that both the princess and Alice had already slipped away. The creature lunged again, but he, now visibly pissed, leapt into the air and struck it down in a single blow. Elsewhere, Violet, Alice, and Cecilia were sprinting toward a safer zone. Suddenly, Violet stumbled and collapsed onto the ground. Alice rushed to her, checking frantically if she was all right, offering a hand and asking if something was wrong. The princess gave a faint smile and said she wasn't going down that easily. Before Alice could react, a blade drove straight into her body. Cecilia had attacked from behind, betrayal as brutal as it was unexpected. Shocked and reeling, she managed to gasp out a question, asking why her friend would do this. She crumpled to the dirt, a vital organ pierced, shrieking in agony. Violet stood over her, explaining that she was Ashel's younger sister. She had suspected something was off the moment she learned Luenell wasn't attending, especially given how obsessed he was with being part of everything. She believed this was all a ploy to quietly remove them under cover of chaos, letting others take the blame while they stayed clean. Alice tried to explain, insisting she only wanted to protect people, but Violet cut her off, saying she already knew how power-hungry the Verts and Luenell were. She mocked the idea of sitting still and waiting to be executed like a fool. She told her to spit out her last words while she still had seconds to spare, laughing as she added that maybe Luenell would swoop in and rescue her in time. She tossed down a scroll, an emergency teleport and summon spell, to warp both herself and Cecilia away. Left behind, Alice lay stunned. She couldn't wrap her head around what Cecilia had just done. Some part of her refused to believe the betrayal was real. Maybe it was mind control. Maybe there was another reason. Tears slid down her face at the thought that her closest friend had turned against her. She glanced around. The area was crawling with monsters. Forcing herself to rise, she whispered that she had to pull it together. This wasn't where she was going to die. She had to survive, and she needed to know why her friend had done this. Blood seeped from her wound, and she used it to enchant a spell, turning it into razor-sharp blades. Meanwhile, Violet and Cecilia reappeared inside a secured safe house. The princess looked much more at ease now. Cecilia was quiet, clearly trying to mentally erase any trace of Alice or their shared past. Violet asked why she'd spared her. There had been plenty of chances to finish her off. She reminded her that the order had been to kill, not let her go. Cecilia calmly replied that Alice wouldn't last long anyway. The monsters would finish the job for them. Back in the field, Alice was holding her own, fending off the creatures with what little strength she had left, but her body kept giving out. She kept thinking, what the hell was she supposed to report to the knights? No one would believe that Princess Violet had tried to kill her. She shook it off and focused on survival. Escape came first. Then she turned and saw it, a lava salamander. Not just any beast, but a top-tier monster. If she didn't get out now, she was toast. The salamander began charging a fiery blast straight at her. Her body wouldn't even twitch. Right before it unleashed the attack, Cyan materialized, slicing through the creature mid-charge with rushing fog sword. The beast hit the ground hard, molten lava bursting from its body on impact. Brine rushed in, catching her mid-collapse and helping her escape to safety. She looked up at him, realizing that if he was here, Cyan had to be nearby. Suddenly, her salamander-affected arm got hit. The two of them ducked behind a rock as lava exploded around them. Before the flames could reach, Karam appeared, summoning a lava wall to shield them. She shouted at Cyan to take out the rest of the monsters. Alice was still stunned by the events, unable to process everything that had just gone down. He leapt forward and unleashed Void Sphere, wiping out all remaining threats in one strike. Once the chaos had cleared, she stepped toward him. She'd suspected the truth for a while now, but seeing it confirmed in front of her hit hard. She reached for the mask and pulled it away. Her eyes welled up. She saw his face. Brian stayed focused, hands glowing faintly as he tried to seal up the gash on Alice's side, while Cyan crouched nearby, attempting to walk her through the truth behind everything. He explained that Cecilia hadn't been acting on her own. She had been planted by Princess Violet from the start. She muttered that she hadn't realized until just now, and admitted bitterly it made her feel like an idiot. Even so, she still intended to move forward with her plan, to erase her family's legacy, no matter what. He cut in, telling her none of this was on her. The blame sat squarely on Cecilia, Violet, and Ashel. She blinked in shock, asking if Ashel had really been the one pulling the strings behind all this, and whether Cayenne knew something about it. After all, this whole mess traced back to their father. He didn't hesitate. He was sure Ashel had pushed the idea onto their father, and she knew just how far he was willing to go when it came to him. She stared, puzzled, asking why someone would go that far for his sake. Cyan told her flatly it was so Ashel could be the one to shape the family's legacy as he saw fit. Her expression darkened, twisted with fury. She couldn't believe he'd go as far as murdering his own sister over something so meaningless. Her knees buckled, and she dropped down, still not fully healed, still worn out. She looked up, voice low, asking if he was absolutely certain about Ashel. She'd thought she was the only one who'd sensed something was off, but Cyan had noticed too. She warned him their father and the others had to be kept out of this for now. Whatever this was, Ashel had a secret weapon she didn't. During the earlier fight, something had felt wrong, like an unseen force was shielding him. Cyan's eyes narrowed. That sensation was way too familiar. He'd felt it once before, in another life, at the moment he tried to strike him down. Something had stopped him before his blade could land. He still didn't know what the hell it was. Some force that reached past the body, messing with the soul. A cursed sword? Something darker? Only one explanation made sense. He said they were out of time and needed to speak to their father now. She nodded, but he shook his head. Their father wouldn't believe them. Not a chance, she pleaded, saying if they both came forward without delay, maybe he'd actually listen. His tone shifted, serious now. He told her to trust him. If she acted recklessly and things went sideways, the entire Knights of Light could turn on them. In his last life, Ashel had always been the Golden One. Everyone had adored him, looked up to him like he was sent from the heavens. Even Cyan had once followed him without question. People treated him like a messiah, never doubting a word he spoke. But looking back now, Cyan couldn't help but think something about that had always felt off. The way Ashel had been adored, it wasn't just admiration, it was worship. And if some still questioned him, they never said a thing. Even their father, an emperor who'd died chasing his own dreams and fears, had trusted Ashel completely, not a shred of doubt. Cyan had clung to that trust too, right until the end. When the betrayal hit, he'd felt nothing but rage. And one nagging question kept digging into his mind. What the hell made everyone believe in Ashel so blindly? But the answer had always been right there. It was him. Cyan said it aloud. Ashel had become an untouchable icon, carrying the divine authority of the most revered god in human history. He was the chosen one, humanity's supposed savior. Meanwhile, on the rear end of the battlefield, the royal guards had formed a shaky perimeter around the princesses, trying to keep them safe. The girls stood frozen, shaken to their cores, unsure what to do as the ground rumbled beneath them. A massive earth dragon lunged forward, claws raised to strike. Then Ashel appeared, cutting in just in time to shield them. The dragon launched another strike, but he raised the shield of judgment, blocking the blast for everyone behind him. Then, in a blur, he shot toward its face and split its skull in one swift blow. The beast crumpled dead. He asked if everyone was all right. Cheers erupted, voices chanting his name filling the air. Even the princesses started singing his praises. Alice stared, stunned. She couldn't wrap her head around it. The savior? Chosen by Lumendel? Cyan, standing beside her, told her plainly. Lumendel hadn't chosen based on character. He just needed a savior. That's it. And since Ashel had been chosen by the supreme god himself, denying it now was basically heresy. She'd risk turning the whole church of Lumendel against her. A weight settled behind her eyes, a slow, sinking disappointment. She'd placed her faith in Lumendel her whole life. And now, this. She turned to Cyan, asking how he even knew all of this. He avoided her gaze, telling her he couldn't say. Not yet. He'd already interfered too much. She placed a hand on his shoulder, steady. She trusted him completely. If he couldn't say, there had to be a reason. But one day, she said, he needed to tell her. He didn't have to carry it alone. Then she pivoted toward Brine, giving him a small nod of thanks for patching her up. Cyan looked at her, asking what she planned to do next. She didn't hesitate. First, she had to deal with this mess. That meant finding Cecilia. She needed to hear the truth straight from her. He offered a hand, literally, summoning a porcelain gate pointing to Cecilia's last known location. Back at Violet's safe house, Cecilia suddenly felt a strange mana signature ripple through the air. Someone was getting close. Violet scoffed. No one else knew about this place. They didn't even have time to blink before a blade whirled through the air, narrowly missing the princess's throat. Cecilia's eyes widened. She knew that sword. It was Alice's. While that played out elsewhere, Ashel arrived at the last known location of Alice and Cecilia. He picked up the remnants of a magic scroll and immediately suspected it had been used for teleportation. Without wasting time, he told the soldiers nearby to sweep the area and check if any shelter was close. One of the guards called out, motioning toward something, and brought up a question. Would Princess Violet be all right? They all turned to see a corridor littered with what used to be salamanders, now ripped to shreds. He issued a sharp order to secure both princesses without delay, then took off to investigate whatever had done this. Over at the safe house, Cecilia had been tailing Cyan for quite a while now. At first, she'd assumed he'd be incredibly skilled. His mana pressure and killing intent had been off the charts, but in the end, he was just a kid. Still, something felt off, like someone else was backing him up. To close the distance, she cast a spell that flung her forward, aiming to catch and strike him directly. But just before contact, he vanished right out of her range, slipping past her blade like smoke. She barked out a question, asking where the hell he'd learned to move like that. Nothing from her world matched it. He didn't respond, not a single sound. She pressed on, demanding to know about the sword and whether he'd saved Alice, but again, nothing. He stood there, wordless. Frustrated, she amped up her speed, attacking in bursts, slicing in from all sides as she circled him. She thought to herself that only a handful in the Knight's Order could keep pace with her, and this kid was managing it. When she leapt to attack from above, he slipped away again like she was moving in slow motion. That's when it hit her. He was faster. Not a little, a lot. And he still hadn't drawn his weapon. The fact that he didn't even bother made her snap. Her temper flared, and she lunged from behind, gripping a jagged rock, going straight for his blind spot. He tanked it without flinching. Before she could blink, he conjured a void sphere, calm as ever, layering it with an obsession spell. The moment it connected, her body started unraveling from the inside. Crashing to her knees, she knew she was done. Pathetic, she called it. A humiliating way to go out. This wasn't the kind of place she ever thought she'd die in. She called him Grim Reaper, half in awe, half in horror. Even then, she asked if he was seriously just going to stand there silent, even now. Desperate, she begged him to at least answer one thing. Was Mr. Leximus still alive? He dropped to one knee, eyeing her curiously. He asked what kind of expression that was. Was that relief? He admitted he'd expected something messier. Anguish, maybe. She gave a faint smile, telling him to think of it as justice finally cashing in. That this ending, ugly as it was, kind of fit. A voice rang out across the space, asking, "Justice for what exactly?" Alice stepped into view, eyes locked on her, asking how she could do it, how she could betray her. The other woman looked up and smiled weakly, eyes wet, saying she was just glad Alice was still breathing. Alice screamed, cutting her off, demanding an answer. She wanted to know why she'd lied all this time. Years back, her village, just a nameless dot on the map, was wiped out by monsters. Every building gone, every person dead. She'd been the sole survivor. Barely clinging to life, she'd thought it was the end right there. But then came the sound of voices. A rescue squad combing the wreckage. They dug her out from beneath the collapsed rubble. Despite the shortage of supplies, the princess overseeing the mission had food and water rationed just for her. It was nothing short of a miracle. She had been pulled from death's door by either royal knights or rafters. She couldn't even remember which. And the one who took her in after that was Violet. From that moment, it felt obvious. When someone saves your life, you owe them yours in return. Later on, the chance to repay that debt finally came. A direct order from the princess. She was told to infiltrate the Vert household, keep an eye on them, and wait for further instructions. That's how she ended up planted inside as a maid, and through that, she got to know Alice. But now, looking back at it all, she wasn't sure it had been worth it. A part of her wished she'd just died with the rest of her village, buried with the rubble and silence. Then came that day. They'd all been standing by, waiting for someone to show up. Violet had pulled her aside and given the command, "Kill Alice." She was labeled a threat. Alice, stunned, asked why Violet would see her as dangerous. The maid answered without flinching. The princess had always seen the Vert family as suspicious, ever since she noticed how closely Ashel and First Prince Luinal were aligned. To Violet, that loyalty meant the Verts were probably backing Luinal, and in the paranoid world she'd been backed into, that assumption only grew worse. She spiraled, gripped by fear and distrust, because that's who she was, someone who only trusted herself when the walls closed in. The would-be assassin gave a faint, bitter smile, saying she was nothing like her, and wondered aloud how she'd spent her whole life taking orders from someone like that. And the worst part? Alice had trusted her the entire time, and in return, all she had done was betray that trust. That's when Cyan snapped awake and cut through the moment, calling it what it was. Bullshit. If she thought admitting guilt was some kind of free pass for forgiveness, she was way off. Alice tried to step in, asking him to slow down, give her a second to figure out how she felt about all this. But he raised his blade toward the kneeling woman, cold and unshaken. This wasn't a minor offense. She shut her eyes, ready to take whatever came next. Alice screamed, pleading with him to just listen a little longer before doing anything final. Brian held her steady, whispering for her to put her faith in Master Cyan. The sword came down toward the condemned. Back at the safe house where Violet had holed up, the silence shattered as the door slammed open. She immediately demanded to know who dared to break in. Calling out for Cecilia, she suddenly realized she had no idea when the girl had disappeared. Ashel stepped into the room. He told her he'd come to get her out. A sharp draft crept down the princess's spine, her thoughts snagging on one question. How the hell did he manage to track her here? She flashed a calm, almost mocking smile, noting how he was practically radiating intent to murder. With a sharp edge to her voice, she called him out for barging in uninvited, tossing in how insanely rude it was. He met her gaze, voice level and frosty, admitting outright that killing her was on the to-do list, and that Fabian, Neruvan, and she were all supposed to be casualties, taken out by the monster. She threw it back at him. There was no way in hell he could walk away from something like that without consequences. Her hand went for a teleport scroll, but he shredded it mid-move, coldly stating that he wasn't finished here. She asked if he was seriously planning to carry that scheme all the way through. He answered with a shrug of uncertainty. Maybe, maybe not. Her eyes scanned the room, and that's when she spotted Cecilia's blade jammed into the wall. He demanded to know where his sister was. She hit him with it. She killed her. She admitted she wasn't entirely convinced the girl was working with Luinen, but blood was blood, and that was enough. Still, no regrets. Then she flipped the question back. What now? Was he here to avenge her? He shut that down, saying he was rethinking the whole strategy altogether. He commented on her composure, how she was keeping it together while dealing with threats she didn't fully trust. Cutting off loose ends like that was a smart call, and he was honestly impressed. She wasn't like Prince Luinol, not even close. That rattled her. She stared, wide-eyed, unsure how he could talk about his own sister like it meant nothing, unsure what his angle even was. He stepped in closer, saying the whole thing was doomed anyway. He planned to report to Luinol and tell him straight up. It all fell apart. She instinctively moved back, asking what the hell he wanted from her. He proposed she side with Enon and join his plan. She raised an eyebrow, confused. Wasn't he backing Luinol? He threw her a casual smile like it was obvious. No one said they were allies. They were just in it for mutual gain, nothing deeper. She sat down on the edge of the bed, skeptical, not buying it. He answered without blinking. Believe it or not, Luinol was part of the plan. She smirked, asking if this was about taking over the Empire, because if it was, she wasn't getting involved. He turned his back, saying he didn't give a shit who ended up ruling. His real mission was bigger. Wipe out evil completely. Strip it from every corner of the world. She laughed under her breath, thinking he was full of crap. But something shifted in the air, and he picked up on it instantly. Evil had just made its presence known. A warped, malicious mana flooded the space, sending chills straight through his bones. Was it bloodlust? It sure felt like it. Whatever it was, he'd never sensed anything like it before. The room suddenly tore apart. Walls, ceiling, all of it, getting pulled into the churning dark energy of the manosphere, the void sphere. Ashel locked eyes on it, frozen. He waited, expecting something, anything, but Cyan didn't hesitate. He launched forward and struck. The other man reacted just in time, redirecting the blow at the last second. He demanded to know who Cyan was. The swordsman responded without blinking. He was the evil Ashel had been chasing, and also the one who'd bring his end. Their blades crashed together, the two of them clashing hard, ricocheting across the space with such force it sent shockwaves, even catching the princess in the crossfire. Ashel threw up a mana barrier around her, shielding her from the fight, and moved her away from the destruction as the safe house started to tear apart. The next hit sent him flying, thrown far off course. She called out, checking if he was okay, but he was barely keeping pace. Cyan's pressure was relentless. He pushed back with a full-force attack, loaded with adamant energy, and hurled it toward his opponent. Ashel followed up with an Escalon incantation, slicing the manosphere clean in two. The split protected them both, briefly. Cyan teleported behind him in a blur, catching him off guard. No time to counter, no chance to dodge. He went for a finishing blow, but right before the sword connected, a glowing shield activated and blocked it. Karam let out a guttural scream, like something had just torn straight through her. Cyan froze, thrown back by the force of the same barrier. The mage turned to her, watching closely. Something about this wasn't normal. He tried to steady her, assuring her he'd get through this, no matter what. Cyan stared at her, confused, asking what was happening. She barely got it out, saying it felt like her whole body was being shredded from the inside. Must be his power. It sucked for both of them. Ashel stepped closer, questioning why Cyan backed off when he swore he'd be his end. Then he moved in again. The other man hesitated. Sure, he'd love to finish this, but now that he'd seen what the mage's magic was capable of, he knew he needed to retreat. He tossed something at them, Cecilia's sword and her bloodied shield. Violet reacted immediately, demanding to know what he did to her. He answered flatly. He purified her. Ashel studied him, asking if that was the endgame, wanting to know who gave the order. Cyan said nothing about orders, claiming the Mist. That's who he was from, the ones who never forgive. He didn't do this because he was told to. He did it because it had to be done. And yeah, that confirmed it. The rumors were real. The Mist was back. Before Ashel could respond, Cyan faded, his body breaking into air and vanishing like vapor. The mage's expression darkened, something heavier settling in. The realization hit. The mist had been sabotaging him from the beginning. Later, far from the battlefield, Kram was still curled up in pain. She admitted it. She honestly thought she'd die back there. Cyan asked if it still hurt that much. She nodded, struggling through the words, saying it was the worst pain she'd ever felt. Even if they wanted to take him down, they couldn't touch him. And this was way more tangled than she ever imagined. He said there might be a way through. Then he revealed it, Durandark's elemental stone, the purity of the gods. It was just a theory, but he believed this could give them a shot. She grabbed his hand, pleading with him not to do it. She knew the risk. This could kill him. He knew too. It was dangerous as hell, but it was the only viable path. He had people to protect, and he refused to repeat the mistakes of his past. If the enemy's strength was absurd, then he'd just have to become absurdly strong too. After a while, Cecilia finally prepared to depart. Before leaving, Alice handed her a small token, Marianne's token. Access to the spirit realm was tightly controlled, but with it, she would be able to enter Fruina without issue. Alice warned her to stay alert. Tears spilled down the knight's cheeks as she thanked her profusely, voice trembling with apologies. Alice turned away coldly, making it clear she hadn't forgiven her, warning never to show her face again. Cecilia nodded, understanding the severity, and said she would be going now. Without another word, she left immediately. Nearby, Cyan and Karam had observed everything. The demon asked if he was certain it was okay to just let her walk away like that, insisting it would be better to kill her now. He responded that in his past life, he had already ended her. Reflecting on it, he realized it wasn't necessary. She was already shattered by the guilt of killing his sister. This time he had eased some of that burden. He was confident she would repay this debt eventually. Hours earlier, when he struck her, he had only wounded her shoulder. He remarked that she had died once just now, but he spared her life, warning he would collect his due later and instructing her to stay hidden until summoned. She remained puzzled about why he spared her instead of finishing her off immediately, as if he could see the future. It felt like he foresaw a moment when she could make amends, and if that time arrived, she vowed to pay him back with her life. Karam kept watching him, asking if he was unwell or something, noting how unexpectedly soft he had become lately. Alice approached, and Karam asked if she had already sent the night off. She nodded, crediting her for it. Alice apologized for being late, but thanked the demon for saving her previously. She thought quietly that maybe she could get along with the demonic sword. Perhaps it wasn't so bad after all. She laughed softly and asked if Karam was close with Cyan. The demon denied it, explaining their bond was more like master and subject. She fixed Alice with a serious look, warning that his body belonged to her, so Alice shouldn't try to take it away. That instantly killed any hope Alice had of getting along with her. At the academy, Dean Kendall received a message from Cecilia. She explained she had uncovered answers to all her questions, and decided to leave the Knights of Light. Their path had strayed, the people they protected weren't the right ones, and the household's will was corrupted. Even her father was letting it happen. She promised to visit soon, wanting to discuss many things, especially concerning her brother Ashel and Prince Luanal, and said she would explain more in person. The dean thought privately that both families were a mess, but she was still as concerned about her brother as ever. He vowed to at least pretend to care about Ashel, since she had asked him to. Turning around, he apologized to Boris for keeping him waiting so long and asked how life at the academy was going. Boris replied that he was slowly adapting. The teen wasted no time, asking why he had called him and expressing curiosity about when Boris would admit he worked for his grandson, Prince Luanal, and whether there was a reason he had been hiding it. Boris smiled, saying he wasn't hiding anything. It simply didn't relate to his work there. The teen leaned in, serious, asking what purpose he actually had there. Boris answered that he was searching for someone. When pressed if he had found that person yet, he confidently claimed he believed he had. Kundal interrupted, telling him to stop and warning that if the person Boris was after was Cyan, he should give up whatever he was planning. Kundal's aura darkened ominously. Boris felt the threat but respected his determination. Afterward, he retreated to a secluded spot to write a message, noting he hadn't expected such a reaction from Kundal and commenting that Cyan had impressive connections, becoming more intriguing by the minute. He sent the scroll skyward. Hithkria asked what the plan was now, warning that if another human got involved, things would get harder. Boris assured him he knew, and there was no need to worry. Hithkria cautioned that Karam wasn't like him. She had a physical form. Boris comforted him, saying he just needed to sever her connections first, and that it was under control. Suddenly, Hallmaster Sarika answered his summons, asking why he wanted to meet. Boris thanked her for coming. She replied she had wanted to meet him as well. Rising, he mentioned he wanted to ask about Cyan, saying he spent most of his time in his dorm, skipped lessons, yet was extremely skilled. She shrugged it off, calling Cyan a natural prodigy, and asked if that was what caught his attention. He said that initially, yes, he was just interested in our protagonist, but now he was curious about those around him too. Moving closer, he accused her of being a follower of the black fog and the mist. They both shifted into attack stances, but before she could draw her sword, Boris summoned a hellhound that swallowed her whole. Inside the beast, she managed to slice through its insides and break free. Using fog powers, she conjured a domain that enveloped them both. Boris admired her, not expecting such capabilities. She could create an entire new realm, explaining this was how she kept her mana from leaking into the real world. Sarika smirked, admitting she didn't know how he uncovered her true identity, but this revelation would cost him his life. If he desired death, she would grant it gladly. He pulled up Hithkria's book, warning her it wouldn't be as simple as she believed. She smirked, addressing him by name, Cyan, but mocking that his confidence wouldn't last much longer. Without hesitation, he summoned Marines who immediately surrounded her from every direction. In response, she called forth her fox assassins, declaring she was ready to begin his purification. At that moment, a portal materialized inside the royal dormitory, and both he and Brian stepped through. Nana immediately lashed out at him, chiding him for how much she had missed him. She had grown noticeably larger since the last time he saw her. He asked how she had been doing, and she replied she had been training diligently with Sarika, just like he had instructed her to. Over the past weeks, she had been honing her skills under the woman's tutelage. About a week ago, he had requested Sarika train Nana to control her emotional breakdowns, emphasizing that the banquets of blood must never happen again. Nana had held up remarkably well, having slain countless monsters during her training. He patted her head, acknowledging how tough that must have been for Sarika, who was known as the best at managing instincts. She kept hugging him tightly, adding there would be no training today because Sarika had other plans. He inquired what those plans were. Karam stepped forward and revealed it was purification. Sarika had been ordered to purify Boris. He asked what she meant by that. Karam explained that since Boris was an instructor, Sarika, being one herself, should have easy access to him. He was confused as to why she would take such action, and questioned whether Karam realized the opponent they were facing. She sarcastically asked if he meant the scripture, mocking him and claiming neither Sarika nor Mist could handle that. He exhaled in relief, confirming she was aware of the decree, then asked when she intended to tell him. She laughed, saying she didn't think it was necessary. He quickly gathered his belongings, stating there was no time for rest or delay. His bloodline was the real danger here. He instructed Brian to handle things in his absence, and the man reassured him not to worry. Brian asked if they should stay put or leave, and he told him to take Nana and Emily to her new screens. Brian questioned if he was going to leave the girl behind or bring her along, but he patted her head, emphasizing it was too dangerous to remain here, so they all must leave as well. He promised to return once the situation was under control, but made it clear he was leaving everything else in Brian's hands for now. Meanwhile, Sarika struggled to maintain her defense against Boris. The more she looked at him, the more repulsive he became in her eyes. All of her fog assassins had been defeated, and the marionettes continued to reappear relentlessly. She finally realized the banquets of blood had been orchestrated by him. These marionettes carried the same aura as those involved in the banquets, but these were significantly stronger. He laughed darkly, declaring this was merely the appetizer and admonishing her not to tire yet. More marionettes pressed the attack. She wielded the rushing fog stone, slicing through as many as she could to carve out breathing room, but he used scripture spells, sending shafts of light like spears flying toward her. She barely managed to evade most of them, and each time she believed she found an opening to strike, he countered immediately with more advanced spells. The number of marionettes continued to swell, and her ability to dodge diminished rapidly. They were learning her fighting style, adapting to her movements, making it far more challenging to maneuver. When one got close enough, he commanded it to detonate beside her. The explosion hurled her off balance and trapped her within a cluster of others that simultaneously exploded. Exhausted and weakened, she left herself open for an attack. He called upon the scripture to summon a massive warhammer and launched it directly at her. The hammer crashed into Sarika, driving her deep into the ground and shattering everything beneath. She lay there looking beaten while Boris mocked from above. Murmuring quietly to herself, she finally understood. The marionettes could track an opponent's mana. These weren't ordinary puppets. She guessed his spellbook was the source of his power, something extraordinary given the mana she sensed. It had to be a divine weapon. He applauded her sharp battle instincts and extensive knowledge with a dry laugh, then shrugged it off, summoning a fresh wave of marionettes to assault her. Still, she refused to surrender. Rising instantly, she gathered mana and unleashed a secret fog technique called the Expansion. Her shadow grew, twisting into a demonic form, the Mammon of Greed. He froze, stunned by the sight, unable to grasp how she pulled this off. The mana he sensed from her before had vanished entirely. What new kind of mana was she tapping into? The demon swung a massive arm, crushing countless marionettes in its path. The puppets scrambled onto its body, trying to attack, but it sprouted more spikes, shredding them and absorbing their energy. He found himself at a loss. She had conjured a demon familiar whose mana surpassed all expectations, but it was a temporary shield. Now she was drained of mana herself, and even casting a simple spell would be nearly impossible. Flipping open his spellbook to strike again, he suddenly lost sight of her as she vanished and reappeared behind him, completely silent and impossible to detect. He activated Holy Protection just before she plunged a blade into his back. She unleashed a rapid barrage of strikes, slowly eroding the shield until it shattered. Before he could react, she slammed him to the ground, gripping his face and driving it into the dirt, leaving him helpless to retaliate. Just as she was about to slit his throat, an idea struck: to cast a spell without any incantation. She detonated the ground beneath them, propelling both into the air. He reacted quickly, firing judgment spears, but she dodged every one and teleported close, delivering a brutal kick to his face that slammed him into the earth, obliterating everything beneath. Gasping on the ground and struggling to rise, he heard a voice command him to stop the fight for today. Before he could react, she swooped down with a finishing strike, but the spellbook intercepted the blow. He reflected that they didn't have enough intel on her. He'd assumed she was just another of Uru's countless servants, but with skills like hers, she was likely a high-ranking officer. In his current condition, he stood no chance. She snapped into a defensive stance and noticed black blood trickling from his mouth. She recognized it as the infamous black blood of the tribe once thought extinct. He grinned, admitting this was why he avoided spilling his own. She finally realized the marionettes from the banquet were formed from blood and a tasting stone. The Black Blood tribe had originally created both, and he was the one who massacred them. He didn't deny it, confessing he'd been found out and that continuing his work would be difficult from here on. Launching another attack, she aimed to finish him for good, but as he tried to teleport away, the Mammon Summon remained firmly behind. She and the demon combined their assault on his protection, but even together they couldn't break through, until a portal tore open inside the domain. Surprised that anyone could interfere here, she watched as Cyan leapt through, slicing the protection open and creating an opening for their next assault. The shield abruptly shattered into pieces as Karam materialized, her lips curling into a smile while she watched Hearthcrea struggling to regain his breath. He demanded to know how she tracked him down, and what her purpose was here. She let out a sharp laugh, saying she could smell it, the foulness that a hypocrite like him spread in the air. He reminded her that he had already warned her she picked the wrong side. Without warning, he transformed into a larger, more imposing form, with wings broader than before, surpassing even the authority of the god's top seraphim. The shield surrounding Boris intensified, expanding in size and power, forcefully throwing Sarika out of the immediate area. Despite this, Cyan remained steadfast, resisting the overwhelming force. Even Hearthcrea stood in shock, unable to believe he could withstand the top god's authority, a power the angel couldn't endure even with the demonic sword's aid. Boris offered to assist in defeating him, pointing out that the demonic sword's wielder was right before them and must be eliminated immediately. Hearthcrea tried to intervene, cautioning that they weren't strong enough for this fight. Cyan shouted Boris's name as he tore through the shield and slashed at the angel's book, pushing deeper toward its core, intent on stabbing the seraph in the chest. He finally grasped that the black fog shrouding the sun symbolized Cyan. If this man was a blade destined to become part of Asher's future, then he was a threat that had to be eradicated. He kept repeating to himself that Cyan was someone who must be eliminated. The angel charged forward, preparing a final strike he believed would end him once and for all. Sarika noticed the surge of powerful mana charging in the air and realized Cyan wouldn't withstand it much longer. She knew she had to act before disaster struck. While he and Boris clashed, Cyan activated his Unshakable Root spell, freezing the seraph in place to prevent any escape. Boris countered by summoning a hellhound, aiming to devour him, but at the last moment, Sarika arrived just in time to rescue him, unleashing the secret technique called Unified Demonic Human Form. Moments later, a massive explosion erupted, shattering the entire domain around them. She remained unsurprised, sensing that this was the overwhelming force of a god's power weapon. Because they escaped, the purification mission had failed. Cyan rose to his feet, questioning why she had intervened, and she told him she had saved his life. He bent down to pick up Karam, asking if she was all right. She stayed silent for a few seconds, then said she needed some rest for a while. He knew she had probably experienced the pain directly, but had managed to endure it regardless. He promised himself that when the real battle came, he would have no choice but to use that weapon. At Brno, Commerce City near Lewin, Alice moved through the crowd searching for someone until she finally spotted the Academy's dean. She had doubted he would appear, but here he was. They found a cafe to talk somewhere more private. He mentioned it had been a long time since he left the academy, and she replied she was equally surprised, given he rarely left the school grounds. He explained it was because of the letter she had sent. The situation seemed serious now. The will of the household wasn't the main issue anymore. Ashel and Lewin represented the bigger problems. She asked if he knew anything about the man. He replied he wasn't entirely sure, then asked what she would think if Ashel became the household head. She looked down, mentioning that countless silenced citizens had joined the Knights of Light. He would likely become the leader of the Empire's most powerful army. The dean nodded, adding that Lionel, his grandson, would probably command the knights alongside him. Alice looked up, saying that was exactly what worried her, then asked his opinion of his grandson. He glanced down, recalling that once, long ago, her brother Kyan had asked him whether he valued the Empire's prosperity or the honor of his household more. It was as if Kyan had foreseen the future. The dean admitted he hadn't been cautious enough about what they might do, his face darkening. She asked what he meant, and he told her he didn't know for certain, but urged her to leave the Empire for a while. A great disaster was looming. He would do what he could to make things right, but couldn't guarantee anything. She asked what disaster he meant, and he warned that a coup d'etat was brewing, signs of internal conflict aimed at seizing the throne. Alice stood before the window, her mind tangled in thoughts about the coup d'etat warning. She hadn't expected Ashel and Luinal to plot something like this. How did Dean Kendall and Cyan already know? Suddenly the door swung open, startling her as Emily and Brian stepped into the safe house. Approaching them, she greeted the pair and immediately asked if they had been living with Kyan at the academy. Emily nodded, smirking, teasing that young Master Kyan still needed her around. The idea of him sharing the academy with two women unsettled her. Brian explained he had urgent matters and had sent the three of them here. She noticed only Brian and Emily were present and realized Nana was missing. Their hearts sank. Nana had been there moments before, but they hadn't kept an eye on her. Taking charge, she stated that if this person was close to Cyan, then she was important to them too. They needed to search for her together immediately. At Bernea's harbor, a ship slipped away from the dock. The elf confirmed they were ready to depart. The werewolf commented that the bay looked especially nice this time and suggested reporting it to the captain. Before leaving, they spotted someone standing nearby, Nana, confident and serious. Leaning in, they asked if she had been abandoned by her parents. She pointed toward the distance, shouting that she smelled something familiar there. Instantly, they recognized a chance for easy profit and tried to lure her aboard by promising candy and food. Though she looked too old to fall for the candy trick, her eyes lit up at the mention. They put on friendly smiles and laughter, but she recalled Cyan's warning about strangers offering candy. Still, she pushed her doubts aside and pretended to follow them. The basement door swung open for her. Thoughts of him flooded her mind again, reminding her never to enter dark, confined spaces if someone beckoned her inside. Yet she ignored the caution and stepped in without hesitation. Once inside, the door slammed shut behind her. The elf and werewolf exchanged smiles, feeling lucky to have claimed another prize. Her eyes scanned the basement, but no candy appeared. Instead, rows of cages filled with trapped children stared back. Realizing she'd been deceived, tears welled up. Then she caught the same scent as before and followed it until she found another cage, housing a chained, terrified dog-like creature, a high-ranked monster called Red Ganon. She reached out, gently patting his head, asking how he ended up here and if he wanted to be freed. He barked affirmatively. Without hesitation, she bent the steel bars of his cage. The children behind her pleaded to be released as well. Turning, she flashed them a sinister, twisted grin. Meanwhile, the elf and werewolf approached the captain, announcing they were ready. He commended them, saying departure from the harbor was all that remained. The man introduced himself as Red Ganon, Merchant Unit CEO Tolino. The dwarf asked if they would negotiate their sales again. Tolino nodded, explaining Maurice had gone missing, which meant the Grey Merchant Union was finished. Without having to pay Maurice's fees, they expected increased profits. Plus, the Garam Association paid premiums for younger kids, so bonuses were on the horizon. The dwarf recalled Albus was the first, and now the Grey Merchant Union had fallen. He confessed a bad feeling, trusting his woman's instincts that never failed. They looked at him, puzzled. "You should just be more cautious," Tolino advised, telling them not to overthink. They had a Knoll champion backing them. As they spoke, a pig exploded on the horizon, emerging from the ship. Suddenly, Nana dashed in front of them, shouting, "Bad adults!" with fury and hatred blazing in her eyes, declaring she could never forgive them. Tolino screamed in surprise and confusion upon realizing she was a draconic human. She pointed at all of them, accusing them of being liars and bad adults. They grew angry and launched their weapons at her, but none were enough to bring her down as she punched and kicked each of them, beating them one by one. At his last resort, the man ordered the monster to bring her to him alive. She quickly ran toward him, wielding a hammer that smashed down and destroyed the ground beneath her. He shouted in frustration, reminding the beast she needed to be kept alive, but she hadn't died yet. The strike hadn't even fazed her as she held the hammer with one hand, effortlessly. She looked at him and noticed the chain around his neck and the symbol on it. He swung his sword again, and she backed away. Dodging all their attacks, he screamed, asking how they couldn't defeat a little kid, insisting he was big enough to win against her. The monster under his control growled and charged a heavy swing, but before landing it, she punched the creature, sending it straight into him. He had no time to react, so the beast fell right on top of him. Elisa and Brian noticed smoke and sounds coming from nearby while searching for her. Brian suggested she might be over there, sensing a surge of mana in that direction, urging them to hurry. Meanwhile, the man was trying to recover from the fall and used a gem, ordering the monster to kill him. His heart dropped when he realized the shackles had been broken, and he no longer had control over it. The beast growled, looking at him with a devious gaze. It approached and crushed his hand by leaning on it. She then confronted the monster, moving closer. She brought a small gnoll creature and asked if he was their parent. He smiled upon seeing them. Then she said goodbye as they parted ways. Now she missed Cyan even more after witnessing this wholesome scene. She heard a voice behind her, thanking her for saving them. Turning around, she wondered what to do with all of them. She called out to the man's servants, telling them they needed to take responsibility and bring the children to their homes. But she warned that if they didn't, she would simply eat them. They complied, having no other choice, and took the children to their respective homes. She had saved them all, and wondered if Cyan would praise her for that. She had finally done a good thing without causing trouble this time, and wished he would. Suddenly, a hand reached out and patted her head. She turned and saw Cyan smiling brightly. She asked how he had found her, but he said it would be strange if he hadn't, given all the mana coming from her. Seeing no one else inside the safe house, it was obvious she had been missing. He told her with a warm smile that he would find her no matter where she was, because he was her papa after all. However, he couldn't ignore the immense mana radiating right now. Suddenly, Brian and the others finally reached the place, expressing relief that Nana was okay. But Cyan was angry at Brian for not doing his job properly. Alice was surprised to learn the child they had been searching for was a draconic human. Meanwhile, in the Uchif Empire's capital, at Gwizdal Estate, someone ran to the front door, asking what was going on and why someone who usually stayed at the academy would come here out of nowhere. The dean entered the estate with servants bowing respectfully to him. The blond man asked what had brought him here, referring to him as his father. The dean, wearing a serious and angry expression, told him to talk, noting it had been a while. They have gone to a private room. The dean has told him it has been 2 years since he relinquished his position as duke, which is why he has not intended to intervene in how things have been run. But he has asked how the fees for the estate have dropped so drastically, while the funds being sent to the emperor's family have increased so significantly. He knows very well that the current emperor's family has been sending exorbitant amounts of money to them every year. Their political standing will be degraded if they do not pay such amounts, and then they will place their own person on the throne. He has shouted, asking if he does not want Luenal to become the emperor. The dean has slammed the table, saying that it is enough, and asking if he really believes Luenal has the qualities of an emperor. The man has answered that it does not matter as long as it is someone from the Quizel family. The dean has told him it is just like when he married his own sister off to the emperor, but he will say no more and orders that all support to Luenal be cut off. Rising from his seat, he says he will be heading to the palace. Meanwhile, Velius from the Third Estate has been standing by his coffee table, reading a letter. They have finally found the owner of the demonic sword. Although he has been setting plans each time, he is worried they would be ruined once again. Alice's sudden resignation from the knighthood has been unexpected, but he has held a stronger claim when it comes to inheriting the dukedom, which has been good news in that sense. Her eyes, full of resentment, suggest she probably knows something, and that has been starting to get on his nerves. Suddenly, a teleportation circle has appeared beside him, and Boris Lehelem has stepped out, greeting him formally. Ashel has gotten up, asking what this is about and if this is the true appearance of the Black Blood tribe. Boris has apologized for it, saying he had not meant to reveal this form of himself. Ashel has asked who has done this to him, and the other man, with a frustrated expression, has told him that his brother Cyan has driven him to this point. Ashel has grown angry and frustrated when he has heard that name. Boris has said that at the same time he has been able to achieve his goal and has pulled out some marble-like mana, saying it is the mana of the demonic sword he found during the Banquet of Blood. Now that the owner of the demonic sword has been found, Ashel should finally understand that Cyan is the one and has been ruining all of his plans. He has expressed disappointment at being completely unaware of it until now. Boris has admitted he wanted to eliminate Cyan but was not powerful enough. He has urged Ashel to step in, saying he has fought Cyan before and knows it will not be easy, but believes he can do it. Still, he warns it is not the time yet. Since the followers of the Black Fog are with Cyan, the situation has become difficult to predict. Ashel has asked if there is a plan, and Boris has told him to follow the prophecy. The saying will guide him to where the sword is, to where the Holy Sword lies. He needs to find the Holy Sword to Durandark. Kellen has been surprised to hear mention of the sword, and has felt the need to report this to Cyan immediately, but before he can move, Boris has appeared behind him, calling him a rat and grabbing him by the neck. Ashel has confronted Boris, saying he has found him very suspicious lately and that he has been fooled for the longest time. Meanwhile, Lunav has been reading many books but has not found what she is looking for. The ancient texts she found in Instructor Boris's lab that day have been written in an ancient language, and if it were not for the spell forcing her out, she could have found out more. What she has managed to learn so far is that only 2 books in the world are written in that language, the Divine Scripture and the Demonic Scripture. It has seemed more like the divine scripture, but why would something like that be in his lab? She has not found anything yet about the contents or use of the books. Now she thinks her only option is to look in the Garam Association's archive of forbidden texts. Suddenly, she has been surprised from behind by Princess Erin. The princess has asked what she has been thinking about so deeply that she did not notice her presence. Lunav has asked what brings her here at this time, and Erin has blushed and turned away, asking if she has seen Cyan lately. Lunav has denied it, saying she has been spending most of her time at the library recently. Erin has smirked and asked if she has missed him. Lunav has disagreed but admitted it feels strange that he suddenly stopped coming to school, her face turning pale like white bread. She has comforted the princess, saying there is no need to worry and that he will come back eventually. Arin, confused, has asked how she can be so certain, and Lunav has answered that she just knows. Suddenly, Leximus has entered the room, saying there is a big problem and handing her a letter, telling her it is from the palace and she needs to read it. She has opened it after scolding him for reading her private letters, and the first thing she has noticed is handwriting resembling her father's. The letter's content confirms the sturdy relations between the wards and the palace, and notifies her of the engagement between the fifth princess, Erin Savers, and Sire Cyan Vert. She is frozen as she reads those words, her cheeks burning bright red, continuing to read. Inside Emperor Dejan's chambers, he murmurs a quiet thanks as Violet hands over a glass of water. She brushes it off, saying there is no reason to thank her, and that looking after him is the least she can do, considering she is his daughter. He waves off her concern, calling it nothing serious, just a common cold. She wishes he would get better soon, saying it stings to see him like this, clearly suffering. He gives her another small reassurance not to stress over it. Then, without a knock or a word of warning, the teen barges into the room. He greets the Emperor and introduces himself without hesitation. Violet quickly rises to her feet, excusing herself so they can speak in private. The dean takes a moment, noting how unwell his host truly looks, cheeks sunken, frame withered, more bones than body. The Emperor acknowledges it, admitting he feels ashamed to receive an honored guest in such a deteriorated state. The visitor asks how long his condition has been this bad, and the ruler replies it started out feeling like a cold, but has not gotten better in the slightest. With a somber expression, the dean says he regrets not coming sooner. The Emperor leans forward, guessing the real reason for the visit, saying he has only ever shown up when the Empire is standing at the edge of disaster. He locks eyes with him, expression sharpening, and asks if this is about Luinal, already seeming to know what is going on. The dean admits it, saying he is in the dark about most of it, but now realizes it is way bigger than he thought. The Emperor charges Mana into his palm, confronting him head-on but saying there is no need to panic. As long as he is breathing, Luinal will not be a threat. The dean picks up on the energy swirling in his hand, intense but erratic, and realizes whatever is wrong is not just on the surface. Between strained breaths, the Emperor adds, there is something else bothering him, how Princess Erin is faring at the academy. His guest tells him not to worry, as she is sharp, driven, and packed with talent, and she will grow into a solid ruler. The Emperor softens, relieved, though unease lingers, as she has always been fragile and quick to tears. Still, he is glad she is doing well. He mentions how much she has changed after meeting a certain boy 3 years back, Cyan, and believes that boy will stay close to her. For that reason, he has decided to have them marry. The dean offers a knowing smile, which surprises him, who figured that would be news, but the teacher already saw it coming the moment Cyan was recommended for the royal dorms. The Emperor lets out a low laugh, then asks for his honest opinion of the kid. Without skipping a beat, the dean flatly replies that he is a disaster, cutting class more often than people eat, and never once seen opening a book. In all his 5 decades of teaching, Cyan is the worst student he has ever had. That leaves the Emperor second-guessing the engagement plan, but the dean changes the tone, saying our MC might be awful academically, but is gifted in ways that matter, and with him around, no one would dare lay a hand on Erin. The Emperor finally exhales, comforted by that, before asking what is really eating at him. His guest stiffens and, after a long pause, confesses he is afraid of what might happen if blood gets spilled between his children. While that conversation unfolds, Violet, having exited the room, bumps into Luinal. He demands to know if she just came from seeing his father and grandfather and what she was doing there. She barely glances at him, saying he should go see for himself and ask them directly. He tries to stop her, saying he is not finished, but she brushes him off, calling him irritating. That ticks him off, and his voice rises, asking if she wants to start something. She throws him a sly smile, saying she would not stoop low enough to hate him. He snaps, asking what the hell that is even supposed to mean. She grabs his face without warning, grip tight, leaning in, and says she thought he, of all people, would understand. Close to his ear, she whispers that she knows what he has done, that he has tried to kill every one of his siblings. He slaps her hand away, warning her to shut up if she does not have proof, then turns on his heel and storms off, announcing he will get answers directly, and next time she should learn to keep her mouth shut. As he walks toward the room, rage burning in his gut, his thoughts spiral. Someone has betrayed him. The question is, who and how much does Violet know, and what is she plotting? Elsewhere, Princess Erin fumes after hearing the news, wondering how her father could decide something this massive without even talking to her. To protest, she slams her head against the desk, though she admits she does not hate the idea and that it probably makes political sense. But still, he should have said something. Leximus, meanwhile, is practically buzzing, saying he is all in and that he watched her go through heartbreak before, so this feels like fate or divine timing. She lifts her hand dramatically, declaring she will take young Master Cyan for herself. That is when someone barges in, scolding Leximus for making a racket in the library and bothering the princess. The moment she sees him, she grabs her noisy companion and hauls him out. He asks Lunav what is going on with the two of them, but she dodges the question entirely, cutting straight to hers, asking if he likes Erin. He blinks, caught off guard, and immediately denies it, saying mentally he is in his 40s while she is still a kid. So hell no, that would be gross. She smirks but says nothing. He notices a pile of books spread out over the table and asks what they are for. She explains she is digging into clues from the scripture they spotted in Instructor Boris's lab, which turns out to be written in some ancient dialect. He tells her she probably will not find much here, and if she really wants to learn more about the Holy Scripture, she will have to check the archive of forbidden texts. He points at one of the books, asking if she has read that one. She flips it open and says it is just a travel journal. He draws her attention to a specific line and quotes it, "A mountain packed with sand trees, where demons defeated in the divine war lie buried." Then he asks if she has any idea which mountain it might be. She blushes, admitting she does not know, and asks what that has to do with the scriptures. Cyan's expression hardens as he tells her he is not searching for the holy texts at all. He is after the demonic ones, the Lemhi-Haram. She looks at him, stunned, mind-spinning, unable to grasp how he knows the titles of both the holy and demonic scriptures. Those names are supposed to be tightly held secrets, known only to a select inner circle within the Garam Mage Association. She quickly says she doesn't know anything about it, apologizes, uneasy. He doesn't press further, just turns and starts walking off, telling her to reach out if she discovers anything related. Once he's gone, she speaks to the presence lurking behind her, calling her out, Lamella. The mage steps forward, bowing her head, explaining she was ordered not to leave Lunav alone under any circumstances. Lunav narrows her eyes, not buying it. It sounds more like surveillance than protection. Her tone shifts, firm and cold. She tells Lamella not to move an inch but to answer plainly. Hearthcrea and Lemhi-Haram. How many people within the association would even recognize those names? Lamella admits barely anyone. Speaking those names out loud is forbidden. She has no clue how someone so young could know about them. Lunav orders her to pull whatever records she can find on them from the archive of forbidden texts. The mage panics, saying if she goes through with something like that, she could end up dead. Mr. Regens would explode, but Lunav fixes her with a sharp, dangerous stare, reminding her that she too has the power to make Regens furious with just one word. They need to figure out how he learned this. She lays it out clearly. Lamella has a choice to make. The mage swallows her fear, nods, and quietly excuses herself. Message received. Lunav turns her focus back to him, planning to question him herself. Whatever he's hiding, she needs to get closer to find out. Sometime later, he walks alone, still mulling over the cryptic phrase, "a mountain full of trees and sand." He thought maybe Lunav would have a clue, but it turns out she didn't. Guess he's on his own for this one. Then a voice breaks his thoughts. Someone beside him comments he looks like he's got a storm brewing in his head. It's Seth, offering to listen, saying he's a man of high empathy and emotional depth. His whole look has changed, more polished, more socially acceptable. Cyan stares, thinking this must be it. Seth's finally lost his damn mind. He tries to leave. He doesn't have time for this right now. Seth's all brawn, no brain, not exactly what he needs at the moment. Then something clicks. Seth's from the desert. He stops, turns back, and asks if he's ever come across the phrase, "mountain full of trees and sand," or the name Lemhi-Haram. Seth laughs, saying it's been a long time since he heard that name. That was the first opponent who ever made him taste defeat. He was just 6 when it happened. He had wandered into some nameless ruins chasing strength. Back then, he didn't have the bulk or the skill. Lemhi-Haram? A nightmare, massive, wild, and overwhelming monster. He stood no chance, blacked out mid-fight, came to with no injuries, must have bolted on instinct. It was humiliating, but if he hadn't run, he wouldn't be alive now. Cyan blinks. Wait, so Lemhi-Haram isn't a book? It's a creature? Seth nods. No getting around it. He has to see this thing with his own eyes, asking where the ruins are. Seth admits he doesn't know the ruins' exact name, but the region? It was called Nordeli. In the old tongue, Nordeli literally means mountain of trees and sand. Cyan freezes, then yells, he needs to go there right now. Seth looks confused. This level of enthusiasm from him is almost terrifying. Seeing him like this throws Seth off. He can't believe it. Cyan actually wants to go on an adventure. His thoughts drift back to when his friends used to ditch him, crying to their moms, running away even when he swore he hadn't broken anything this time. Someone used to dry his tears, telling him not to worry, that someday he'd find someone who liked him just as he was. If he kept working hard, one day he'd find a friend who'd go on an adventure with him. Tears fill his eyes, not from sadness this time. This is that moment. Without hesitation, he agrees, then dashes off, literally breaking through a wall to get packed. While everyone else was caught up in the moment, they didn't notice Lunav. She'd been listening to them the entire time, from the very beginning. Cyan returns to his quarters. Brian steps forward, handing him a sealed letter. It's from the palace. He opens it, skims the contents, and right there at the top, it hits him. He's been officially engaged to Princess Erin. So that's what Lunav meant when she asked if he loved her. He sighs. Great, another headache to add to the pile. He'll deal with it later. He grabs a change of clothes, preparing for the journey with Seth. As he does, he tells the others to keep an eye on Nana while he's away. Nana's calm, not even worried. Her only question, does this mean she's finally getting a mom? Brian nearly chokes, yelling, wait, is he really planning to defy a direct order from the Emperor? Cyan doesn't sugarcoat it. He says where this road leads, there's no happy ending waiting. He'll either be hunted down for life or executed, either for blasphemy or for killing the Empire's last shred of hope. He won't drag Erin into that kind of ending. Then, without another word, he shuts the door behind him. Gone. Emily's voice trembles. She feels awful, knowing he's carrying this alone. And meanwhile, Ashul, their older brother, is the one playing villain. Brian gently rests a hand on her shoulder, saying they won't let things end like this. They'll give everything they've got to help him. Just then, Nana speaks, but her voice is different, eerily calm, slightly deeper. They turn, startled, and freeze. Her face has shifted completely. She now looks exactly like Cyan. She's shapeshifted. Meanwhile, he and Seth have already crossed into the southeast region of the Sparnia Kingdom. Their destination lies to the north. They're flying, literally, on a magic carpet Seth calls Alamut. It's fast, blazing fast. What should have taken days only takes half a day. He glances ahead, voice serious. Does Seth really remember where they're headed? The desert warrior shrugs confidently, saying there's no need to stress. The path's still clear in his mind. All they need to do is get through that dust storm up ahead. Cyan looks toward it and immediately knows this isn't just some harmless gust. But Seth brushes it off. It's just your average Sparnian dust storm. He just needs Cyan to trust him. They black out, and when their eyes snap open again, they're past the storm. Clear skies now. Looks like they made it through the dust wall intact. Seth's awake too, no injuries, just groggy. Cyan glances over and asks how much further they've got to go. His gaze shifts forward, catching sight of something ahead. Seth confirms it's the ruins. Visibility's still bad thanks to the sand, but the place is massive. He mentions the mage is likely the first outsider to ever set foot here, besides himself. Cyan questions that, side-eyes him, not buying it. Says he's picking up traces. Too many people. They weren't first. Tiny figures start moving through the haze, men riding camels and weaving around the ruins, clearly scoping the place. They murmur about heading in and staying sharp. The group halts at an entrance, some sort of door covered in old inscriptions. The pair hang back, watching from a distance. Cyan leans toward him, wondering aloud who these guys might be and saying they should stay on alert. Before he even finishes, Seth breaks into a sprint, diving straight in. The strangers dodge cleanly, unfazed, demanding to know who the hell he is. He stands tall, states his title, Prince of Sparnia, then flips it, asking who they are and what they're doing here. As tension spikes, he blurts out that he's not alone and points toward Cyan's position. They freeze at the name, asking if he's actually present. There's recognition. They clock who both of them are. Now that they know these two are aware of the ruins, they say there's no way they can be allowed to leave. One of them channels energy into his weapon, electric sparks racing along a spear, then lunges at the prince with the charged blade. Seth responds instantly. His hand moves, sand rises, and a defensive mold catches the incoming mana, flips it, and launches it back. The redirected strike obliterates the door behind them instead. The attacker completely whiffs, rattled. He whips around to call his backup but freezes. Cyan's already dealt with the entire group. Frustrated, the man surges with power, mana flaring around him, but then a voice cuts through the tension. Stop! Cyan instantly recognizes the tone. Lunav steps out of the dust and walks toward them, saying the group's with her, calm but firm. She looks to the guy with the sword and tells him to lower it. He does more than that, dropping to a bow and apologizing, clearly not realizing they were her people. She turns to the mage, asking how he's holding up. He skips the pleasantries, grilling her about how she even knows this place exists. She smirks, teases him, says she could smell him from a mile off. The guy nearby clearly doesn't enjoy the flirting. Elsewhere, Nana has fully shifted her appearance. Now she's basically Cyan's clone. Clothes, posture, everything. Sarika's trying to explain, saying it's a polymorph spell, meaning the girl's nearing dragon maturity. It's not perfect yet, but she's close. Dragons usually use it to disguise their true forms. She adds that Nana's likely never even seen a fully grown dragon. so her reference points are limited. Sarika looks around, wondering aloud where Cayenne disappeared to. Brian shrugs, having no clue. She leaves Ned behind and pulls the door shut. Brian finally spots the mage, muttering that covering for him is starting to be a full-time job. Back at the ruins, Lunav says she wants to explore the interior with Cayenne. Karen instantly pushes back, saying it's way too risky. She counters, saying these guys are terrified. No one's ever come out alive from inside, so she suggests they stick together. Karen argues back, pointing out that every person here is over 7 stars in mana power. They're not ordinary, and she needs to trust that. Seth raises his hand, casually mentioning he's already been inside and made it back. Everyone freezes. No way they believe that. He doubles down, saying he's serious and offering to guide them in. Mentions there's a swarm of lizardmen guarding the entrance. Cyan perks up at that. Lizardmen? He hears they've already smashed through the front gate. Suddenly, a giant foot stomps into frame. More follow. Dozens of lizardmen swarm the ruins, charging straight at them. The group readies for battle. Lamella steps ahead, positioning herself between Lunav and the oncoming creatures. Meanwhile, Karen and the other fighters surge forward to engage. They go all in, but even at their strongest, it's not enough. The tide of lizardmen keeps swelling. They're burning mana fast, and it's obvious they won't outlast the wave. Then something shifts. Lunav stiffens. She senses an overwhelming surge of mana. It's heavy, unnatural. Cyan taps into the Sphere Void, the same spell he's used before, but this time he fuses it with division magic. In a flash, every lizardman drops. The battlefield goes silent. Not a single monster left. The entire horde gone in a single strike. No one moves. They're stunned. He just wiped out a squad of high-tier beasts in one hit. Seth breaks the silence, irritated, complaining the wipe happened before he could even get his moment. Cheyenne shuts him down, telling him to quit whining and lead the way instead. The swordsman pivots and heads into the ruins. Lemela watches the structure around them, noting this isn't just a regular ruin. A place like this wouldn't have its own defense system unless it was something else. She explains the whole area is built from condensed mana. That makes it a dungeon. They step inside and come across another sealed door. They try to break the enchantment, but nothing works. The spellwork is unfamiliar. Karen suggests brute force might do the trick, but their attacks don't even scratch it. Seth starts to snicker. The fighter gives him a look, then tells him to handle it if he's so confident. The man casually flicks his hand, and a subtle pulse of mana unlocks the door instantly. But what's waiting on the other side isn't a hallway. It's a monster. Huge. Seth steps forward, warning the others to stay back, saying he'll handle it. He charges mana into his fist, fires off a grand cannon spell, and obliterates the creature in one clean hit. They press on, deeper into the dungeon now. It's not just monsters. Traps too. Unpredictable, complex, dangerous. There's also a strange entity. Pure mana. Not even remotely human. Cyan's never seen anything like it. And every door they encounter only responds to Seth. They start piecing it together. The ruins are attuned to his bloodline. Lunav confirms it, saying the Sharkans are the ones who built this place. She found the info buried deep in the archive of forbidden texts. Cheyenne frowns, not entirely buying it. Something doesn't sit right. She turns pink, smiling, swearing she doesn't lie to people she actually likes. He doesn't let it land, firing back that he doesn't trust logic built on feelings. She sits down quietly, then says something different. The Garam Association's been chasing both the divine and demonic scriptures for decades. She explains they believe the divine armor could push the Garam kingdom to greatness. For her grandfather, it's more than politics. It's damn near a religion. He thinks the armor's the key to ruling the continent. Cyan chuckles, calling it bullshit, saying power like that doesn't save anyone. It gets people killed. Her smile fades. She stares at him, then asks why he wants the demonic scripture. The same question, twice. He smirks, saying he wants to ruin it. Not use it, not fulfill some prophecy, just wreck it. Because wrecking it sounds way more fun than watching another kingdom turn it into a throne. Lunav lights up, eyes wide, smile spreading, saying she's in. She'll help him. He blinks, asking what the hell she means by that. She leans in, saying she'll help get the book just because she feels like it. He groans, telling her to get some sleep. She grins and refuses, wanting to stick around longer. He stands up immediately and walks off, wondering why he's even talking to a 12-year-old about this. Karen's been nearby the whole time, overhearing everything, and he's not loving the vibe. Jealousy rising, anger simmering. They reach the final doorway. Seth steps up and opens it, mentioning it's been a long time since he last came through here. What lies beyond stuns everyone, a massive chamber. And in the middle, something ancient and unnatural, an object pulsing with dark energy. Definitely not normal. Cheyenne points to it, asking if this is the Lemiharam. Seth warns him, telling him to keep his distance, saying he's way too close to the source. But before anyone moves, the artifact flares to life. Lunav shouts for everyone to back off. Something's wrong. The mana coming off this thing feels dangerous. The Lemiharam begins to twist, shaping a body from pure mana, forming into a monstrous figure. The air shifts, the world around them distorts, and a whole new realm unfolds before their eyes. This thing isn't just a monster, it's something else. And Cyan can't even tell if this is really the demonic scripture they've been chasing, or something much worse. Without warning, the monster lunges. Garou bolts forward, unleashing a bolt charge straight into it, but the thing doesn't even flinch. The impact does nothing. Everyone gathers their magic, synchronizing it into a single concentrated blast. They fire together, the strike knocking it down, but barely. It's still very much alive. Lunav steps in next, casting a freeze spell that locks its limbs in ice. Shouting toward Mela Aronis, she calls her in to land the final hit. Mela leaps high, slashing down with her Nova Brinker at full power. The creature doesn't budge. Then it swipes. Hard. She gets knocked out of the air. Seth retaliates, stomping the ground and channeling his magic into Sandstomp. A whirlwind builds, circling him in a tornado of grit and force. Lunav watches, hopeful. The fight seems within reach, but something feels off. That gut-twisting, sinking feeling she can't shake. The monster smashes through the cyclone with a single hit, like swatting a fly. His magic shatters on impact. It lunges again, but Cyan steps in, activating Obsession Void Sphere. The explosion of dark mana hits clean. This time it falls. No movement. It looks dead. Too dead. Everyone stands there stunned. He might have just ended it, too quickly. Coram watches. So does Garoon, eyes fixed, fists clenched. The fact that Cyan's beside Lunav, it eats at him. Before the moment sinks in, the creature starts shifting. Its form warps, fading back into whatever its original shape was. Then the realm around them collapses. They're back in reality. Cyan looks around, straight to Seth. "Where's the demonic scripture?" he asks. Seth blinks, shakes his head, saying he's never gotten this far before and has no idea. Out of nowhere, bones ignite. Blue flames crackle from the skeletal remains. Spirals of blue wind tear upward from the ground. In seconds, both are swallowed by it. The ground beneath them caves in. Mela grabs Lunav's arm to stop her, saying it's too late, that even Cyan wouldn't survive what just happened. But she doesn't flinch. She looks at the rubble, eyes hard, insisting he's still alive. She tells Mela to help her clear it. The other mage hesitates, unconvinced, but Lunav turns to her, dead serious, saying she feels him. They're linked. She knows he's still out there. Meanwhile, Cyan and Seth aren't in the same world anymore. They've landed in some other dimension entirely. Standing before him now is something else. A creature. Massive. Pure mana. Its name etched into the air around it. The Palarok. Its presence dwarfs everything that came before. He spins around to check on Seth, but what's left of the kid isn't good. His body's charred, twisted, burned through. The last attack hit him head on. Kid didn't stand a chance. Too young. Too human. His body couldn't take it. Cyan tightens his jaw, fury bubbling. The Palarok lets out a guttural roar. No one can see him here. No one to interfere. No rules. He tilts his head, a slow grin spreading, saying he's in a seriously shit mood right now. So whoever this monster is, it picked the wrong person to mess with. They both rush at each other, practically crashing mid-sprint. Cyan draws the fog sword, activates Fog Storm, and slices clean through the beast's body. But he doesn't slow down. His movements keep flowing, unleashing a chain of strikes, a full combo. He cuts off all its limbs, then takes the head. The creature doesn't fall silent. It speaks, telling him he's the first human to ever reach this point. But none of that matters, because in the end, he's going to lose. It explains that death's off the table for it. Regeneration is constant. He'll run out of stamina before the monster runs out of lives. He responds immediately, casting Obsession Void Sphere. The swirling magic devours the creature whole. Then he steps in and lands one final strike, splitting it wide open. At its core is a marble of glowing blue mana. But before the moment settles, the monster rebuilds, its body reconstituting like nothing happened. It laughs, saying he could keep cutting forever, and it still wouldn't matter. The longer it goes, the more drained he'll get. He shrugs it off, saying he doesn't mind, calls it good training. He tells the creature to keep regenerating forever if it has to, because he's not stopping. Above them, back in the rubble, Lunav and Lamela are still digging, trying to find where Cyan and Seth fell. Lunav notes that if there's some kind of magic barrier keeping the ruin intact, they're stuck. Nothing they do from the outside will help. She quietly wishes Seth was with them again. Karen approaches, checking on her, asking if she's hurt. He tells her he's found a way out, that they should move while they still can. But she doesn't budge, says she's staying. Period. He blinks, asking what she's even saying. The whole place is about to come down. They've got minutes, maybe less. She turns toward him, firm, unreadable. Cyan's trapped. She's not leaving. If he's going to bail, fine. He can go. Karen snaps, saying there's no way anyone could survive getting buried under that. She answers without hesitation that Cyan's not dying that easy. His voice rises, screaming now. Why is she so obsessed with him? Did she ever care about them? He brings up Azra Moore, Candle, all of them, dead, right in front of him. And now what? She's going to throw their lives away too. He offers to escort her out, saying he served her faithfully for years, and if she was going to fall for anyone, it should have been him, not Cyan. He tells her no one else on this planet gives a damn about her the way he does. They're meant to be. She looks him dead in the eye, her face twisting. Contempt, plain and sharp. She says she could say that about Cyan, but not him, and that hearing it from Karen makes her feel sick. That breaks something in him. He snaps, saying he doesn't care if she mocks his feelings anymore, and if she won't come willingly, then he'll force it. Lamela steps between them, telling him he's going too far. He grabs her by the throat and slams her into the wall. Electric energy bursts from his hand, surging through her. She goes limp. He turns back to Lunav, saying it's just the two of them now. But a voice cuts through the silence. Calm, detached. "Put her down," he yells, demanding the speaker show themselves. A giggle echoes. Then the voice replies, amused. "All right, since you asked nicely, but you'll pay for opening your damn mouth." Elsewhere, Seth wakes up. He's not sure where he is. The place looks nothing like where he fell. All he remembers is the Lemmy Haram's blast hitting him straight on. That's the last thing. He wonders if he died. A voice, female, chimes in, saying no, not yet, and it's been a while. He blinks, confused, asking if she knows him, who she even is. She guesses he doesn't remember. It's been years. Apparently, she saved his life once. She waves it off, saying it's fine, she's not here for him anyway. What she really wants is our MC traveling with him. She cups his face, saying she needs his body just one more time, then leans in and kisses him. His eyes flash open. His body, now reanimated, rises. Back in the other realm, Cyan is still locked in combat. Every technique he's ever learned, he's using it. The creature now isn't laughing. It's begging, telling him to stop. He doesn't. He strikes again. More slashes, tearing the monster apart, again exposing the mana marble. But this time he doesn't waste a second. He casts Void Sphere, then overlays it with Obsession, slicing the marble in two. The monster lets out a final scream, then dissolves completely. What's left turns to sand. Nothing more. A single slip of paper flutters out from the dust. He catches it and unfolds it, realizing it's only a fragment of the demonic scriptures. He mutters under his breath, "All that effort for just a piece?" If Karam were conscious, she would have known. But she's still down, burnt out from that last fight against the bullies, stuck in a coma with no end in sight. He glances around, asking himself why he's still trapped here. The dimension should have collapsed. The vessel's gone. But then he feels something. A bloodlust, razor sharp. He spins. Seth lunges at him. He dodges just in time, but the energy coming off Seth is wrong. Completely wrong. Something seriously off. Meanwhile, the voice speaking to Karen and Luna finally takes shape, condensing into a shadowy figure. Its form pulses with darkness. It tells them it had no intention of getting in the middle of anything, but then Karen tried to hurt that girl. Both freeze, caught off guard. The entity adds that if the swordsman doesn't have a damn good reason, he'll just kill him outright. The atmosphere shifts, heavier than before. Crushing. This energy isn't like the other one. This must be the real Lamiran. Thinking he might still have a chance, Karen reaches for his sword, but doesn't even get it loose. Lamiran clocks the movement instantly, irritation flashing in his eyes. With a flick of magic, he seizes the man's arm and twists it. Bone cracks. He mutters how impolite it is to answer words with violence. Then he snaps his fingers. The limb detonates, blood and bone exploding midair. The swordsman collapses, groaning. But the shadow's not done. He summons a colossal hand of magic and slams it into him, pinning him to the wall like an insect. He asks again, wanting to hear his excuse, but Karen can only whimper, pleading, begging for his life. Lamihran doesn't even blink. He casts Gigant Ixia. The massive spell crushes the man's body completely, ending it. Once it's over, the shadow turns, eyes landing on Lunav. He asks where she's planning on going. She gives a small bow, thanking him, then asks tentatively if he's the Miran, and what he plans to do with her now. He leans forward, saying he's just here to observe. The answer stumps her. She hesitates. He studies her, stepping in closer. His gaze narrows on her chest, pointing out faint traces of heart curb lingering in her aura. But someone else, someone with mana close to his, removed it. And that's why she felt familiar. He's sure now, it's that black-haired guy buried beneath the ruins. She confirms. Cyan? His interest sharpens. He asks if she's close to him. She turns the question around, asking if he's okay. Lamiran assures her he's fine, probably chatting with the spirit who owns this whole dungeon. Then he pivots toward Lamela's crumpled body, asking if it's really all right to let her die like that. Lunav looks down, pain in her voice, saying it's already too late. A wound that deep can't be healed, even with high-tier magic. She takes the blame, saying she'll carry the memory of today until the end of her life. But he offers an alternative. There is a way to bring her back, but it comes with a condition. If she's willing to accept it, he'll reveal the truth she's looking for. Elsewhere, Cyan is still locked in a brutal fight with the possessed Seth. The man's strength is off the charts now. Mana's boosted, physical power's overwhelming. Cyan is struggling, barely able to block the attacks coming at him. In the middle of the chaos, Seth lands a clean hit, nailing him in the ribs and sending him flying. No time to recover, no space to breathe. The possessed fighter even takes flight, hovering above with zero effort. When he speaks, it's not his voice anymore. He says Kyan's the first human to last this long, But playtime's over. It's time for the real fight. Cyan's eyes narrow. He demands to know who this is, but there's no answer. Just the power of the sand god, Apophis, being called forth. He braces himself, but right before the hit lands, he hears her voice. Karam's finally awake. She appears in her human form, conjuring the Black Fog's vigilance magic to block the attack. Cyan sighs with relief. She tells him she's still tired, every nap feels like not enough, and she's definitely going back to sleep once this is done. Seth hits the dirt hard, then says it's been a while since their last run-in, back during the God-Demon War. Karam doesn't hold back, snapping at her. Acting friendly now won't undo the crap she pulled with her master and hijacking a human body for fun? Not cool. She calls her by name, Sabalom, the sand god. Karam gestures to the tattoo burned into Seth's chest, saying it's the crest of the Chaharkan tribe, the ones who serve Sabalom, and accuses her of interfering with mortals just for her little desert cult. Sabalom shrugs it off, teasing her, saying she's just playing around with her master and Karam shouldn't be so possessive. Cyan watches, baffled. These two are talking like old frenemies. He cuts in, asking why the sand god is guarding the demonic scriptures. Karam answers for her, explaining the place isn't hers. She just loaned it to the tribe that worships her. They built the shrine, and after the war, she took Lomiran in for safekeeping to keep the divine armor out of the wrong hands. Then she leans closer to Cyan, asking point blank if he's after Lamiran. He doesn't hesitate, says he needs to kill someone, and for that, he needs the demonic scriptures. Even she's thrown. She didn't expect that answer. She asks again, "That's all you want?" He levels his gaze at her, saying if she gets in the way, he'll kill her too, even if she's a god. She bursts out laughing, but his face doesn't change. He means it. She wipes a tear from her eye, still chuckling, then says fine. She's made her decision. She'll tag along, watch his journey. Through Seth's body, he raises a brow, saying stealing a body like that is kind of messed up. She waves it off, saying she's only borrowing it occasionally and won't overdo it. And while she's here, he doesn't need to worry about Seth dying again, especially not from something pathetic, like a cold. Cyan stares at her for a beat, thinking if she's riding shotgun in Seth's body, then he won't die the same dumb way he did in his last life. Not a terrible deal, he agrees. She grins, saying it's time to move. She taps the ground with her foot, and the stone floor begins to rise. Before it lifts too far, she looks back at him, smirks, and says goodbye. The ground beneath them cracks open, then swallows them whole. When it spits them back out, they're exactly where they'd once been, trapped under all that rubble. Seth blinks awake, disoriented, lost. He doesn't know where he is or why he's still breathing. Lunav sees Cyan first, then Lemela. Relief washes over her face like a crashing wave. She'd been terrified he wouldn't make it back. He scans the ruins. It's absolute devastation. He asks what happened here, because if this place was under Sabalom's protection, then whatever tore through it had to be Mihran's work. Then his gaze falls on the scriptures, now in her hands. That answers that. She tells him only she and Lamela made it out. Everything else a blur of chaos since he vanished. Seth speaks up, urging them to leave, saying something's messing with his head. Some woman's voice whispering warnings over and over. She keeps saying this place is going to collapse soon, and it won't stop. Sabalom's still inside him. Cyan gets it now. With Lunav in possession of the demonic scriptures and Sabalom tethered to Seth, there's nothing left keeping this dungeon together. And so it begins to crumble. She gathers them, telling them to stay close. She's casting a teleportation spell. He hesitates, saying the distance is too far, too risky. Then it hits him. She's not casting a basic spell. She's about to use a 9th star teleportation spell. His eyes widen. Right as the whole place begins to fall apart around them, she casts it. A second later they're gone, and safe. Elsewhere, Nana is deep in her own training. She's been practicing her morphing magic, transforming herself into Cyan. No horns, no wings, no tail. A perfect match, down to the exact way he stands, blinks, breathes. Hours later, she walks into class. Everyone turns in surprise. Cyan? Here? But it's not him. It's her, Giddy, living out her dream. She's curious what her dad's life feels like, picturing him spending his days surrounded by loyal friends and passionate teachers. Leximus and Aaron look her way. Leximus tilts his head, asking if she's good. Aaron doesn't say much, but she feels the weight of the engagement talk looming. As she strolls through the academy halls, she feels completely alive. It's a thrill to live beyond the window pane, to walk, to talk, to be him. No one suspects a thing. But before she can make it back to class, Sarika steps in, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. She asks what Nana thinks she's doing, wondering if she really believes it's okay to be out here like this. Nana freezes, busted. If the dean saw her, she'd be exposed, punished. Tears prick her eyes. She starts to cry, afraid, cornered. Before Sarika pushes it further, Aaron steps in, saying she needs a word. It's not the best timing, not even close, but Nana sees the out. She grabs Aaron's hand and pulls her away fast, saying they need to talk, now, in her room. Aaron stammers, shocked, blushing, but goes anyway. Leximus watches the whole thing and decides not to interfere. Back in the wild, the teleportation worked. They made it. Cheyenne pulled it off, something Saya honestly wasn't sure he could do. He's gone further than she expected, past the mark. Lamela urges him to rest, saying they should head to the nearest village. Saya turns to Seth, asking if he recognizes anything around them. He squints at the unfamiliar terrain, then nods. He knows this place. It's Nordelli, the city of the outsiders. Before anyone can speak, a group of men emerges from the shadows, blocking their path. One steps forward, his tone sharp. He wants to know why Seth has come back. Seth stares at him, then recognition clicks. Barnithy? He smiles, takes a step forward, arms open, but the man holds up a hand, halting him. No warmth, no reunion. It's been 6 years. 6 years since he vanished. And in that time, these people have rebuilt, piece by painful piece. Barnithy says if Seth feels any shred of guilt, he needs to turn back. This piece, they bled for it. Don't ruin it now. Seth reels at the words, clearly stunned, and blurts out if they hadn't been tight before. Barnithy gestures toward one of the men nearby, asking if he recognizes him. He squints, puzzled, then gives a slow shake of his head. He's got no idea who's standing there. Barnithy snaps, yelling that the guy is his son. Back when Seth was younger, he knocked out one of the kid's teeth just because he wanted another shot at training. He brushes it off, claiming it was just kids messing around. But underneath, he knows the truth. He never got married, not with all the lives that were lost. But that's not even close to the worst damage he's done. He's made a habit out of wrecking village wells. He's smashed through buildings like it's a sport. No rhyme, no reason. Instead of walking through doors like a normal person, he punches through the walls around them. Cyan doesn't look surprised. She's heard it all before. He's always been a pain since day one, the royal chaos magnet. Barnithy pleads, begging him to stay far, far away from their lands. Then, right in front of them, his body shifts, new tattoos snaking across his skin like fire. A voice cuts through the air. It's Sabalam, the sand goddess, stepping in. She refuses to watch this go down in silence, saying it's personal. He's her mess to deal with, and she won't let them rough him up. Barnithy fires back, asking what the hell she's even talking about. Sabalam introduces herself plainly, the one who treads the desert, the one who unleashed storms, the one who brought collapse with her. As she speaks, she takes form, merging into a humanoid shape, and makes a request. She wants the two of them to stay in the village. She accepts their offer. Cheyenne rolls her eyes. She's clearly done with all this divine drama. When the goddess finally vanishes, Seth looks like he's seen a ghost. He asks if they heard her too. Cyan nods, deadpan. Because of Sabalam, they're sticking around. Barnithy and his crew drop to their knees, throwing out apologies toward the sky, begging for her mercy. Elsewhere, Leximus shuts a door gently, feeling hopeful that today might actually turn out all right. She wishes Aaron a good time with Cyan. Inside the room, Aaron and Nana are still holding hands. Aaron's face glows red, her thoughts spinning, frozen in place. Nana casually mentions that instructor Sariko gives her the creeps. Aaron doesn't respond, still gripping her hand, and turns even redder. Noticing, the shifter lifts a hand to Aaron's forehead, checking if she's running a fever. She jumps back suddenly, but then she remembers. They're engaged. This shouldn't be weird. They're supposed to be close. Trying to gather her nerve, Aaron decides it's time to bring up the engagement. She blurts it out, asking what Nana thinks about it. The girl doesn't hesitate. She says she likes Aaron, so she's all in. Aaron stops, eyes wide, wondering if she really heard that right. For a second, she thinks it's actually Cyan speaking. It feels unreal. Cyan admitting he likes her? That had always felt impossible. She wonders aloud if she has feelings for him herself. But then something shifts. She spots a tail sprouting behind Nana and immediately calls it out. Cutting back to the tin candle, the academy feels unfamiliar, like it's hiding something ancient or dangerous. It's as if a dragon, or worse, slipped through the cracks while it was left unchecked. Inside Aaron's room, things are unraveling fast. She stares, stunned, as Nana morphs back and forth into Cyan. Her mind starts to spiral. The younger girl starts sobbing, apologizing over and over. Aaron tries to calm her, insisting she didn't do anything wrong. Nana offers to pass on what Aaron confessed to the real Cyan, but she quickly refuses. She sits down beside her, finally breathing easier. Nana helped her figure something out, but it needs to stay between them. She makes her swear to keep it secret. Then she asks her to shift back into Cyan one more time. Nana nods and transforms. After a quiet pause, Aaron's face flushes bright pink as she stammers out the words, she likes him. She's finally admitted it to herself. Since the moment they met, her heart's been his. But she's also sure she's just been dragging him down this whole time. Still, she's been trying, pushing herself to change. Tears spill from her eyes as she pleads with him not to vanish again without a word. She begs him to stay. Once she's wiped her face clean, she tells Nana never to breathe a word of this to Cyan. But the girl isn't listening. She's staring out the window, murmuring that something's coming. Something big. Something powerful. Meanwhile, Leximus throws herself in front of the dean, desperately trying to block him from entering Aaron's room. She says Aaron's in the middle of something important. He couldn't care less. He tells her to move, then casts a spell to shove her out of his way. He hits the door with another spell and forces it open. Aaron screams, demanding to know why the hell he's barging in. She says she was having a private talk with her fiancé, no less. The dean calmly tells her to step aside, adding that whoever she's speaking to isn't actually Cayenne. She quickly tells Nana to run. Whoever this guy is, they're way outmatched. The shifter tries to bolt, but he grabs her by the throat mid-escape, growling and asking how she dared sneak into his academy, swearing she'll pay for it as he charges magic straight into her neck. He summons the Trinesis Holy Lance and fires a searing beam of light straight at her. It hits. The blast lands hard and she staggers from the impact. Outside, both Emily and Brian catch the flash through the window. At first they think it's just lightning, but something about it feels wrong. The unease pushes them to check Nana's room. She's not there. Brian grabs whatever clothes he can find and bolts out to search. Back at the scene, the dean's relentless, casting one spell after another, keeping her on the run. Nana dodges every blow like a blur, even after taking a direct hit from 9th star level magic. Even he pauses, surprised. This isn't just any dragon. He pulls at the ground beneath her, then slams twin stone pillars into her from both sides. Still, she's not backing down. He watches her, stunned, and asks if some divine being is riding her body. She doesn't feel fully dragon, doesn't act fully human either. So why the hell isn't she fighting back? He wonders if she's waiting for someone. Catching her breath, she quietly says she doesn't believe he's evil, and she doesn't hurt good people. That throws him. How can she tell? She says she can smell it. She can tell who's kind just by the way they carry their scent. Her teacher told her, only fight when it's time to teach bad people a lesson. He presses, wanting to know who this teacher is, asking if it was them who dragged something as unclean as her into the academy. That word hits her like a slap. Her eyes darken and her body begins to shift, scales spreading, posture changing. She's going full dragon. He reacts instantly, casting Star Judgment with lethal intent, shouting that he won't let her live. She catches the blast mid-air, flings it back like it's nothing, but he's already teleported. He warps next to her and drives a fist into her face, full force. She hits the ground unconscious. Inside the sealed room, Serena and Leximus are trapped, watching her crumple, unable to move, helpless. The dean sealed the area with his own barrier. No one's getting in or out. Serena steadies herself and tells Leximus to keep an eye on Nana. She's been close to Cyan. Maybe she'll know what to do. As if on cue, Sarika slips in quietly through the back door, having followed the noise. Outside, Brian spots people starting to gather. He quickly shuts the main door, keeping the scene hidden. The ward seals off the area. It's designed to keep outsiders from interfering. Sarika approaches the window, examining the spell. Leximus asks if there's a way to break it. She says it's impossible for now, but not entirely hopeless. The fused demonic human form shifts, voice flat, warning them, forget everything they're about to see, or she'll make sure they do. Nana's body is broken, her morphing powers gone. She's reverted to her true form. The dean finally sees her for what she is, a child. Suddenly the barrier shatters. Sarika forces her way through, stepping forward and planting herself between the girl and the dean. She won't let him hurt her. He stares, unfamiliar with her current appearance, and demands to know the connection to the half-dragon. She says it plainly. Nana is her student, and she'll take full responsibility for what happened. His tone shifts, cold, decisive. He tells her this isn't about responsibility. She needs to move. He's ending this now. Nana rises weakly, voice trembling, apologizing. She swears she's not a bad kid and begs him not to punish Sarika. Tears stream down her cheeks as she cries out. He looks at her. For a moment, she reminds him of his daughter. He turns away, rain pounding harder outside. He says she's clearly hurt and needs healing, then tells Sarika to bring her to his office when it's done. The mentor shifts back to her regular form and thanks him. He warns her not to be grateful yet. They'll be discussing the consequences soon. Meanwhile, somewhere else entirely, the crowd roars. Seth is officially crowned, now worshipped as the vessel of the goddess Sabalom. Cheers erupt around him. Seth stares blankly, confused by the crowd's cheers and the fact that he's dressed in makeup and women's clothes. Barnithi steps up, beaming, saying he always had faith in him, that he knew this day would eventually arrive. Seth's expression twists into frustration. He yanks at the outfit, ripping it apart, yelling for them to stop with this ridiculous charade. Cyan watches the whole thing unfold from a distance, lips curled in amusement. Behind them, Karam appears, cutting through the mood. She mutters that she has no idea what Sabalom's endgame is. She suspects the goddess is using Seth to monitor them, but what for, she can't figure out. The mage replies calmly that gods aren't allowed to meddle in the mortal realm. They've left her temple. She can't touch them now. Karam shrugs it off and warns anyway. She's possessing his body. That changes everything. He better stay sharp. And, she adds, they're not the only ones being watched. Lunav bursts into the room, surprised to see Cyan already there. She lights up, asking if he's been waiting for her. He nods, saying they need to talk. He asks how Lamel is doing. The girl tells him she was worried. The injuries were severe, but Lamella's pulled through. Another day of rest and she'll be fine. The internal wounds are already healed. Cheyenne brings up the teleportation spell and advanced healing magic. She sighs, realizing why he wanted this conversation. It wasn't about her performance. She was expecting him to ask how she managed to get her hands on Lamerum. In the dean's office, he leans forward, questioning Sarika on how Cheyenne managed to sneak a dragonic human into the academy. The instructor looks confused. How does he already know? He says it was obvious. The way Nana endured his spells, only someone like Cheyenne could handle someone that powerful. She asks, unsure what he plans to do. He says he needs to talk to Cheyenne, though he already knows how that'll end. Cheyenne will sweet-talk his way through, and the dean will end up giving him free rein. Sarika starts to say she'll take full responsibility as his instructor, but he cuts her off, asking if that means she's planning to resign. He moves on, stating coldly that good and evil are already defined by the world, and what's evil is always tied to the ominous, something she should stay away from. Sure, she might carry that darkness inside her, but she was trying to protect someone. She may believe that side of her is who she truly is, but it doesn't matter. She's with the mists now, and that's still better than pretending to be pure. She blinks, surprised by his words. He turns away, saying the Empire's headed for disaster. He tried to stop it, did what he could, but fate doesn't care. As he walks away, he rests a hand on her shoulder. When the moment comes, she needs to step up and do what she's meant to do here at the academy. He leaves her standing there, stunned and unsure what to make of his warning, this looming catastrophe, this mysterious role. But just before stepping out, he turns back to ask one last question. What does Nana like most at night? Later, in the infirmary, the dean quietly enters while the girl is still recovering. He looks at her, and something in her face triggers a memory. His daughter, Diana. He whispers an apology and asks for her forgiveness. His expression softens with a quiet smile. He doesn't know why he thought of Diana, only that he misses her deeply tonight. He gently strokes her face, lingering there for a moment. Before leaving, he places a piece of candy on the bedside table. Elsewhere, Cyan and Lunav continue their talk. He starts to say something, then stops himself. She tilts her head, confused. She thought he needed something. He turns away, telling her flatly that he doesn't need it. Not exactly, and she shouldn't worry herself. Unless she's planning to take it to the Garam Association. Lunav shakes her head. She'd never do that. He meets her gaze, cold and sharp, telling her not to let anyone take it from her unless she wants to die by his hands. He excuses himself, saying he needs to return to the academy. She can come by later with Seth. After he's gone, Lamerum speaks up. He asks if she really likes him. She nods without hesitation, then asks if he understands what Cyan's trying to do. She calls him Lem. He says he doesn't fully get it yet. He's still learning about Cyan, too. He steps closer. She tells him she's all in. No matter what it takes, she's going to help Cyan. He says she's free to do that. As long as she honors her end of the contract, his truth is hers. Then he raises an eyebrow, asking why she keeps calling him Lem. She grins. Lemaram is just too long. Meanwhile, Brian hasn't stopped training since the Dean's attack. He's haunted by what Anstetica told him. He followed every word, gave it his all, and still, it's not enough. He's not talented, and he knows it. He blames himself for being weak. He has to get stronger so he can be of use to his master. Lost in that thought, something dark steps into view. A shadowy entity confronts him, demanding to know where Cyan is. Brian says he's not here right now, but he senses it. Thick, suffocating mana radiating off the figure. He quickly activates an artifact, raising a barrier around them. He attacks, telling the creature to back off unless it wants a fight. Brian blocks a sword strike with his combat counter, slashing through with a counterattack. He manages to wound it, but the thing doesn't slow down. It charges him again, unleashing a flurry of chained strikes. Whatever it is, it's definitely not human. Again it demands, "Give me Cyan." Brian lands a clean hit, right to the face. The helmet shatters. The figure's identity is revealed. He recognizes the intruder, Kellen, a former subordinate of Ashel, but his appearance has changed, drastically. Cyan has finally reached the moment to leave the village alongside Karam. She has asked if he intends to go alone, and he has told her that Lunav can return with Seth once Lamella recovers. But he himself has found no reason to remain any longer. She has given a sly look, wondering if he's fine with Lunav being upset. He has assumed she wouldn't care much. Karam has let out a tired sigh and claimed he's destined to end up alone. He has responded without hesitation. Solitude doesn't bother him. The second he has stepped into the teleportation portal, he has landed right in the chaos, caught between a clash erupting between Kellen and Brian. He hasn't been able to grasp the situation. Blood has covered the younger man, who's already taken a bad hit, and Kellen's appearance has completely altered. Brian has shouted a warning, urging him to stay alert. This hasn't been Kellen anymore. The former warrior has lunged forward, aiming to strike, but Karam has reacted fast, calling on the Russian fog storm and tearing him apart in seconds. Brian has looked completely stunned, barely believing how effortlessly the mage has handled it. All he's managed to feel is that he's become nothing more than dead weight. Cyan has turned toward him, pointing out the severity of his wound and advising rest. He has done enough while Cyan's been gone. Now it's his turn to take over. Cyan has approached the fallen Kellen, breathing hard, asking whether he's still conscious. Using what little strength has remained, the man has warned him to stay cautious. Ashel and Boris have already gotten their hands on the holy sword. The news has shocked Cyan. In his previous life, they hadn't reached it this early. The situation has begun spiraling faster than he's ever calculated. Kellen's form has faded, leaving behind only his warning to stay careful. While Cyan has watched him disappear, offering a silent farewell, he's seen what they've done to Karam, turned him into a puppet. He hasn't had to think twice to know who's responsible. Brian has pulled himself up, asking what exactly happened to him. Cheyenne has crouched by the fallen figure, picking up a stone, the seal of Reuniversal, an ancient, corrupted magic that bends a person's mind, forcing them to turn on their own. They've weaponized his shadow self against him. Regret has crashed down. He's realized he should have killed Boris when he had the chance. As long as that bastard remains alive, this nightmare will keep repeating. He can't afford another repeat of the past. He's made up his mind. Boris has to die. He's turned to Brian and told him to prepare to leave. The other hasn't understood what he meant by that, so Cyan has clarified. They're leaving the academy. Their destination, the Wurzduchy Temple of Lumendel. Meanwhile, Ashel has stepped into the palace and approached a woman standing at its center. She has greeted him, acknowledging the time since they've last crossed paths, referring to her as Nafrudit Iris. The woman has smiled, revealing her face, noting how rarely he's used that name anymore. With a puzzled tone, she has asked if he hasn't come with Prince Luanal. Ashel has kept it simple. He hasn't been involved in that anymore. She has smirked in amusement, teasing that the rumors surrounding Prince Violet must hold some truth. He hasn't taken the bait and instead brought up the revelation she's apparently received. Her laughter has echoed as she confirmed it. The holy sword rests on the hill where the scenery of the Guardian can be seen. She has speculated that this scenery must be linked to the estate of the continent's guardians, which is why she's wanted to meet him. She's believed no one else would know its most likely location better than he does. He's admitted he's had a guess. Still, a question has nagged at him. Why has it been located so close? She has stepped nearer, saying that the truth doesn't always lie far off. That's what Lamenter's love has felt like. At the same time, Cyan has faced the dean, presenting a stone and asking if he's recognized it. The older man has immediately identified it. Cyan has explained that he's discovered it inside the academy, but before he's finished, the dean has cut him off, assuming he's tangled himself in more trouble again, dabbling with forbidden magic. Without giving him a moment, the dean has also asked how long he's planned to hide a dragon in his room. The realization has hit Cyan. He's completely busted. The dean's anger has exploded. He's shouted that Cyan's behavior has been insane and that he should leave if this is how he intends to act. Cyan has agreed, admitting things will get worse if he remains in the academy. The older man has slumped back in his chair, surprised at how compliant Cyan has been acting, and asked what's gotten into him. Cyan has explained, the seal of reversal belongs to someone behind the banquet of blood. That person has to be stopped, and he's the one who has to do it. Otherwise, innocent people will keep getting dragged in. The dean has sensed the rage simmering inside Cyan, wondering what has driven him to this point. After a moment's pause, the man has picked up the stone again, preparing to share something unusual. He has asked Cyan if he knows what closely resembles the stone, something called the Day's Stone. There's a theory that both originate from the same source, tied to the Black Blood tribe. Though that group has been thought extinct, rumors still whisper of a few remaining in the slums of Exilium, near the capital. Cyan has been taken aback, asking why he's only hearing this now. The dean has handed the stone back, telling him to stop carrying everything alone and that he needs to pay attention. The century-long peace that's held the world together is unraveling, and if they fail to protect that one piece, the academy itself will be lost. The older man's voice has gone firm. He must play his part, and the dean will play his. In a memory from years past, during one of their older conversations, the dean has warned him he wouldn't find anything good in that place. Whether he faced trials or destiny, it wouldn't serve him. That's what it's like to live as someone else's weapon. Now Cyan has understood those words. His past life has held nothing good. Stepping out of the room, those words have lingered. Don't shoulder it all alone. He has wondered if this has been the real advice the dean has given him in this life. As he's walked through the corridor, Sarika has appeared, asking whether he plans to leave and whether he intends to kill Boris. She has been listening the entire time. She has stated that Cyan was always going to be a target. He's asked if she plans to join him. The instructor has declined, saying she would like to, but she's had to stay behind and fulfill her role, especially now that the dean knows her truth. Cyan has asked whether the older man has discovered her real identity, but she has realized that he's known from the beginning. Karam has appeared, pointing out that the dean hasn't earned that title for no reason. He's not someone to underestimate. Sarika has said that he probably has a plan, but she's leaving Boris to Cyan. And as a parting note, she's asked him to pass a message before killing him. Tell Boris to go to hell. Cyan has acknowledged the request, assuring her Boris will suffer hell long before reaching it. In the fields near the Very Duchy, Ashel has found the entrance to the Duran Dark Sword. It has been surprisingly close to the estate. After hours of traveling, he's asked her if it's really the Holy Sword. Both have been struck by the glowing aura and visual force of the weapon. He's taken hold of the blade and called its name. Eris has felt uneasy about how crookedly it's embedded in the ground, but has assumed it's probably fine. Suddenly, a woman's touch has reached him, claiming him as the heir to the god of light and her master. With a flick of her finger, she has hurled him into the air. Anger has flashed across her face. She has cried out in frustration, saying he's taken too long to return. Tears have spilled as she shouted at him, calling him a fool and berating him for leaving her behind. She has pointed at him, promising she will never forget, and never forgive, what he's done. Once he managed to stand, he realized the figure in front of him was nothing more than a child. Ares had taken form within the space, clearly not an ordinary presence. She must have originated from this blade. She must be the spiritual embodiment of Durandark. Her appearance was a surprise. He had never imagined her looking like this. With tears still falling, she motioned to herself and blamed everything on Ashel. Then her voice broke into a scream, wondering how he even knew, as if he'd walked into this moment with the foresight of a prophet. She explained that the wielder of the demonic sword had stolen her power and demanded that Ashel retrieve it as soon as possible. Back at Lewin Academy, Cyan remained by Nana's bedside while she continued to rest, recovering from the last battle. Relief quietly settled over him. She hadn't been hurt too severely. She had survived an encounter with the most powerful mage on the continent, and that fact alone left him astonished. She had reached a point where she no longer relied on him. While he reflected, Brian entered the room, his first words apologetic. Chian looked at him with confusion, but the knight confessed that he'd felt like a disappointment, never good enough to call himself his guardian. The young mage fixed him with a plain look and told him to do better. Rising from the chair, he said there was a destination he needed to reach. Brian asked where he was headed, and Cyan mentioned a location on the outskirts of Lewin, leaving the rest for Master Sarika to explain. He instructed the knight to go on ahead. He'd catch up later. The shift in Brian was instant. He lit up with energy and determination, ready to take on whatever came. Just before leaving, Cyan turned back to acknowledge him. If it hadn't been for Brian, Nana wouldn't have grown the way she had. That much was beyond even his reach. He told the knight he'd done well, then walked out. Down the hallway, Emily rushed after him, holding a lunchbox and a strange monster-themed hood. She called out, saying she'd packed him food, but he had already disappeared from view. Elsewhere, within the Northern Asians' quarters, Rygans, the leader of the Garam Association, stepped inside. He turned to his subordinates, demanding confirmation that this had been Karen's last known location. Under his breath, he muttered about the younger mage's ambition. Such bold goals, wasted in a place like this. He reached down to retrieve an artifact and activated it with a spell designed to summon the dead. Mana surged through the ancient runes, reshaping into Karen's form. Riggins wasted no time, asking about the fate of the demonic scriptures. The resurrected mage replied that they had vanished, now in Lunav's possession. The elder pressed further. What purpose had brought her here? Karen explained that Kayan Vert had been hunting the scriptures, and Lunav had joined in to help. Rage ignited in Rygans at that, and he dismissed the younger one on the spot. Turning to his followers, he ordered them to locate Lunav and bring her to him immediately. Beneath Exilium, in the city's hidden pathways, a group of half-humans gathered. They'd been collecting a rare type of mana stone, one too volatile for normal humans to endure. Only creatures like them could handle its power. A half-panther laughed, making a joke about how the city had earned its name, the City of the Dead. A bunny-eared hybrid cut him off, urging caution in his words. Mr. Boris had been waiting for them. Before any of them had a chance to react, Cyan emerged and instantly took down the four-armed one. The others snapped into position, preparing to retaliate, but he sliced through the flames with precision. Their caution turned into full-on defense, but he summoned the fog storm again, cutting straight through the half-panther. Only the bunny remained standing. Cyan stepped toward her, asking for the one he was looking for. She recognized him instantly, Cyan Vert. In panic, she triggered a massive fire burst, destroying the entire space in an instant and blasting him back. Far from the chaos, Lunav sensed a sharp jolt. Something had gone wrong with Cyan. Carmilla and Seth noticed and asked what had happened, but she brushed it off, claiming it was nothing. Seth, trying to shift the mood, showed off his enchanted rug. He explained that it was Lunav, the name passed down with the rug through generations of the Shahar Khan family, the Arawats. It could take them to the academy in a matter of seconds. But the young woman had already carried one of her own, meaning they had had no need to share. Lamella added that the artifact belonged to the Garam Association, a group known for gathering rare magical items, so objects like the Arawats were common in her world. Lunav urged them to speed up, pushing to reach the academy faster. Worry tightened in her chest. Something had clearly happened to Cyan, and she couldn't shake the dread. Exilium has been left in ruins, scorched earth blazing beneath the collapsed stone. Tyan stood untouched, shielded by the Void Sphere spell. The bunny hybrid ended her life in a desperate final move, igniting herself in the explosion. Scanning the wreckage, he spotted mana stones scattered across the area. The fire won't die down unless dealt with directly, so without hesitation, he conjured the air void to siphon the flames away entirely. As always, Karam took the opportunity to poke fun whenever he did something remotely heroic, telling her to take a closer look. The half-humans caught in the blaze hadn't died, they'd vanished. She half-joked that maybe they'd been reduced to ash, but even she knew that's impossible, not in such a short span. Cyan believed they'd gone underground, likely through a hidden tunnel. He suggested confirming it firsthand, but before taking another step, a crowd formed behind him. A gathering of beasts, hybrids, and other creatures blocked the exit. Their demand was direct. A human like him had no business here. They told him to leave the city. Karam questioned their attitude, irritated they'd turned on someone who'd just extinguished a fire that could have burned them alive. Cheyenne brushed her off, stating simply that they'd never wanted him here. This land, once a quiet beast village, had lost its peace long ago, shattered during the chaos of the god-demon war, when the demon-dragon Leviathan invaded. Though the dragon had been defeated by Ligvez, the hero of the light god, the aftermath left a worse curse behind. Its decomposing body birthed the mana stones, whose energy twisted everything. Residual power turned Exilium into an abandoned wasteland. The aroma of that mana mutated those left behind, birthing beast hybrids like the ones now in front of him. They survived by mining the very stones that cursed them, all while harboring bitterness toward the humans who cast them aside. One of the half-humans stepped forward, trying to force him out by violence. Karam casually suggested wiping them all out, but she decided it wasn't worth the effort. Too much work, too little payoff. They left instead. Not far off, the bunny hybrid handed the mana stones over to the panther. None of them had perished, not even the four-armed one, who regenerated, his neck fully restored. If not for Boris's enchanted bow, they wouldn't have survived the earlier battle. The mage materialized then, asking whether his involvement had caused them harm, and informing them that Cyan had reached the area too, apologizing for the chaos. They dismissed his concern, saying there was no need. In their eyes, he'd been the aggressor, attacking first. They hadn't realized who they were dealing with until it was too late. As far as they were concerned, Cyan was no match. Boris feigned guilt, but they encouraged him, claiming that without the funds he funneled from his palace work, they would have starved. Now's their chance to return the favor. They had his back. He told them not to overdo it, making it clear he'd be the one to settle things with Cyan. The panther lifted the box of mana stones and handed it over. It wasn't a huge stash, but enough. Boris took the box and slammed it down, releasing the stones. The impact triggered a ritual, magic lighting up the ground beneath him. Earth confirmed they were short on time. Someone had already discovered them, closing in. In that instant, while their focus was elsewhere, Cyan launched another attack, but the panther intercepted him mid-strike, flinging him back. He grinned through it, surprised they were still alive. The panther grabbed him and barreled through the wall, dragging him outside. Boris turned to Earth, saying this had been the only viable way to beat him, and began chanting, a call to awaken the Leviathan, the same beast that once raised the village. At Lewin Academy, inside the royal dormitory, Leximus and Aaron lounged together. He noticed her mood shift and asked what had been bothering her. She flushed, looked away, and said she couldn't bring herself to face him. Leximus pointed out that he'd never been the one to come see her first anyway. Her frustration briefly flared, but she managed to calm herself, suggesting they return. He offered some comfort, reminding her their purpose here was simple, just to check on Nana. Then, just down the hallway, they spotted Seth, Lunav, and Lamella standing near Cyan's room. Aaron asked if they were also here to find him. They nodded but explained he hadn't returned. She tried to reassure herself, convinced he'd come back. He was never good at sharing how he felt, not with words. But this time it was different. His presence, his scent, everything about him had vanished. She began to worry he wouldn't return at all. Aaron ignored him and asked Lunav whether she had any idea where he might have gone. She replied that it needed further investigation, ordering Seth to search the academy for any leads, then sending Lamella to the Garum Mage Association to gather updates. Aaron decided to return to the palace to gather intelligence. Before leaving, Lamaharam approached Lunav, warning the search wouldn't be simple. Every trace had been erased so completely that even Cyan couldn't be tracked anymore. Aaron and Leximus raced toward the palace, urgency pounding in her steps. She couldn't shake the gut feeling that he might vanish forever if she didn't act. She refused to let it happen, vowing to find him before it was too late. Meanwhile, back in Exilium, Cyan engaged the beast hybrids. He started to suspect that Boris had twisted their mutation, no longer a curse, but a power they could wield. No matter how many blows he landed, their bodies regenerated each time. He accused them of being nothing more than puppets, yet somehow they moved with purpose, with free will. The panther grinned, remarking that a human like him could never grasp what it truly means to exist as a monster, or to survive in their world. Brian has been packing the last of his belongings, preparing for departure. He expressed relief that the safe house is nearly secure. Emily praised his efforts, telling him he'd done well, but then hesitated, wondering aloud whether Cayenne even knew they were here and whether he truly planned to join them later. Brian reassured her that Instructor Erica had said so, and that they'd had no choice but to trust him for now. Still, she couldn't shake a creeping sense of dread. Nana's mood hadn't helped. She'd been visibly gloomy, staring out the window for what felt like hours. She was clearly upset, hurt that Cyan had come and gone while she slept, too late to even realize he'd been there. Brian understood that more than anyone, she'd taken this the hardest, and he felt the weight of that moment, especially after Cyan had told him that even he couldn't manage what Brian was doing now. He approached Nana, asking what had gotten her so down. She responded, blaming herself, saying her papa must have run off because she caused trouble. He tried to comfort her, gently placing a hand on her head, assuring her that none of this was her fault. She hadn't done anything wrong. Cyan would return. They just needed to be patient and stay strong until then. As she wrapped her arms around him, she muttered that Cyan was stupid and insisted that Brian scold him later. Elsewhere, Cyan remained locked in combat with the half-humans, struggling to gain ground. They threw everything they had in a desperate attempt to slow him down. The bunny hybrid hurled a Sangu grenade, erupting into a violent blast of fire. She assumed there was no way he could dodge in time, but he reacted instantly, swinging Karam and unraveling the magic. Shock spread among them as they realized someone so young had mastered techniques of a swordmaster. The four-armed hybrid issued the command to strike from all directions, insisting he must have a blind spot somewhere. They were told not to let him counter. Karam observed their movements and pointed out the obvious. They were all following identical attack patterns. Cyan recognized it too and moved to exploit it. He activated the Thick Fog 8th form, Assault, dashing through them and cutting down his attackers. Just before he reached the four-armed one, the bunny launched a flaming arrow at him, warning him to stay sharp. He summoned the Void Sphere to absorb the flames effortlessly. The panther came at him from behind, but he evaded the ambush and appeared behind it instead. In one swift motion, he unleashed Fogstorm, slicing the creature apart. He then decapitated the four-armed hybrid and dashed toward the bunny, splitting her cleanly in half. At last, they grasped the truth. They had stood no chance. The power gap was impossible to bridge. Even so, their bodies began to regenerate, limbs and heads returning. They told him that defeating him was never the goal. Chayan demanded an explanation. If winning wasn't the plan, why start the fight at all? The panther, still grinning, confessed it had all been to stall for time. Suddenly the ground trembled beneath them. He felt the surge of dark mana, a storm of pressure rising from beneath. The ritual Boris had been crafting had finally reached completion. The dragon stirred, and as the sky darkened, Cyan realized the unthinkable. Boris had actually brought Leviathan back, reanimated as a puppet. Karam recognized the beast too, stunned to see it again. Cheyenne knew immediately that if that dragon ran wild in this era, the consequences would be catastrophic. He decided he wouldn't allow it. The Leviathan awakened in full, and atop its massive form, Boris took control. The first thing the dragon did was snap its jaws shut around the panther hybrid, devouring him in a single, brutal motion. The others dropped to their knees, paralyzed by disbelief. None had expected this betrayal. Even Cyan paused, stunned by the sheer brutality. Karam leaned in to explain that it hadn't merely consumed the hybrid, it had used him as a mana sacrifice to amplify its power. He asked why such a creature would need sacrifices at all. Karam guessed that it was likely still recovering damage inflicted by the divine scriptures. The bunny screamed, horrified by what Boris had done, insisting this wasn't part of the deal. He responded with a smile twisted in madness, claiming it was all for the greater good, even as he laughed maniacally through the explanation. Only then did the remaining half-humans understand. They had been tricked, betrayed, used by someone who never saw them as anything more than tools. Across the wider city, other beast hybrids noticed the dragon's return. Its gaze turned to them, charging energy in its mouth. Boris, still consumed by laughter, pointed toward the city and declared that all of Exilium's people would now repay what they owed. Panic spread instantly. Screams filled the streets as everyone scattered, desperate to escape the impending blast. The bunny begged him to stop and fired off a desperate explosion at the dragon in a last-ditch effort to halt the attack. Boris turned to her with a look of disappointment, stating that he had believed they were friends. Then he ordered the dragon to retaliate with fire. Before the flames could consume her, Cayenne stepped in, summoning Void Sphere, predation to absorb the inferno before it could land. The dragon has unleashed another wave of fire, surrounding Cayenne and the bunny hybrid in an inferno. He absorbed the flames again and followed up with a clean, forceful swing of his blade, slicing through the blaze and extinguishing it entirely. The arc of the swing hasn't stopped there. It reached the dragon's body and knocked the beast to the ground. Boris stood frozen, stunned that such power had come from what looks like nothing more than a dagger. Earth Decree corrected him, explaining that this energy has never originated from the weapon itself. Cyan altered the form of the blade through his own force, the initial transformation, nirvana of repentance. Launching into the air, he closed in on the dragon. The guy tried to intercept him by activating flashing rain, sending a volley of rapid strikes, but Cyan redirected each attack without effort. Following through with another swing, he cut clean through the dragon's arm. The massive limb fell toward the citizens of Exilium, leaving them no time to react, but Cyan quickly initiated the 8 fluttering pearls, slicing the arm into scattered fragments mid-fall to protect the city below. Boris only laughed, brushing off the concern for others and claiming that Cyan is destined to become the next offering in the ritual. The dragon drew in a long, deliberate breath, charging another ominous blast, but Cyan's shield returned to his side. Bracing himself, he engaged a fortified rising fog, neutralizing the magic with a single decisive strike and hitting the dragon in the process. He then leapt straight to the dragon's head, arriving before Boris could even notice. Cyan confronted him, revealing how long he had waited for this chance. There would be no escape this time. Summoning his ultimate technique, Black Fog, Arc Adamant, an annihilating spell capable of leveling entire cities, he landed the attack before Boris could react. Meanwhile, Lamaram and Lunav continued their search for him until Lamaram suddenly picked up on his energy, declaring that he had located him. Lunav asked whether he'd pinpointed the exact spot, her eyes catching on the transformed appearance of her companion. He gestured to the map, stating the coordinates with certainty and naming the location, Exilium. She recognized the name and questioned why he would go to an abandoned slum. Lamaram admitted he wasn't sure but had sensed an ancient dragon there. He was vaguely familiar with it, but would need to see it firsthand before saying anything for certain. Lunav's concern deepened at the mention of a dragon that ancient, but he downplayed it, insisting she shouldn't stress. It was barely more dangerous than an overgrown lizard compared to Cyan's strength. At that moment, Lamela stormed in with a group from the Garam Association. Lunav asked for an explanation, and the leader told her that the Garam faction suddenly forced their way in and announced that the president had summoned her. She must go with them now. Lamela leaned in quietly, confessing she had a bad feeling about all this and would try to buy some time. Lunav whispered back in surprise, asking why she was helping if she was loyal to her grandfather. The woman looked away, saying Lunav once saved her life, and this was her way of honoring the path of the night. Lunav smiled faintly and asked her to deliver a message to Princess Erin. The Garam subordinates started pressuring her to move faster, but Lamela reassured her not to worry and promised to deliver the message when she could. Lunav reluctantly complied and followed them, guessing it must be related to what happened at the ruins, and assuming the president might now target Cyan. She made up her mind to stop him before that happened. Back in Exilium, the battle was finally over. The dragon lay defeated, permanently he believed. Boris had vanished, apparently disintegrated, but the peace was short-lived. Shouts erupted behind him, accusations flying. People screamed that everything had gone wrong because of him, blaming him for bringing ruin, shouting that it was all because a human showed up. Others hurled false claims, demanding he leave. Karam muttered again that killing them would be simpler, but Cyan dismissed the idea, saying it was fine. This way, his wait wouldn't have to stretch on as long. Hours passed before word reached Luinal Severus. When he heard of Boris's death, fury took over. He cursed the man, calling him a useless bastard, shouting that he rescued him from the gutter and reshaped him into someone closer to human, only for him to die without paying back the debt. Then Ashel stepped into the room, asking if Luinal had sent for him and what he wanted. The Emperor erupted, screaming that Boris was gone and Exilium was ruined. Ashel responded calmly. He had already known. Luinal demanded to know why Ashel hadn't come to him the moment he found out, but the other coolly replied that he had business elsewhere, something more pressing than Luinal, and now he was confident he knew who caused the downfall. The Emperor frowned, puzzled how Ashel could know, but the mage dodged the question and told him to prepare for departure. Their next stop was Luin Academy, and he was already making arrangements. Luinal asked who they were going to see, but Ashel told him to wait and promised to explain on the road. Humiliation settled in. Luinal realized that Ashel held the reins, and he was the one being pulled along. Elsewhere, Boris turned out to be alive, barely. Dragging himself across the ground, broken and gasping, he soon lost his strength and collapsed. Cursing his luck, he mumbled that resurrecting the dragon was a failure and admitted his shame. Had the plan worked, he could have healed himself. Nearby, Earth Decree, severely damaged, spoke to him, telling him it was all right. There was still an offering nearby, one strong enough. Boris looked up in fear, asking what it meant and what it intended to do, but the being told him not to be afraid. This was the will of God. Then it consumed him, sacrificing Boris in order to restore its own strength. In the proximity of Luin, the royal carriage has been rolling steadily toward the academy. Luinal Severus has grown visibly restless, demanding to know the identity of their intended contact. Ashel, keeping his gaze fixed on the passing landscape, has calmly explained that they've come to seek an alliance with the Academy's dean regarding Cyan, Luinal's younger brother. The elder, baffled, has questioned what connection Cyan might have to anything relevant. Ashel has revealed that our MC has been the one to eliminate Boris, and that he currently holds the demonic sword while also serving as an assassin for the clandestine syndicate known as the Mist. Luenel has frozen in disbelief, unable to accept it without certainty. The mage has confirmed that the details have come at the cost of Boris's life, and every disruption they've encountered has pointed back to Cyan. The realization has finally settled in. He has played them all along. Ashel has added that a bounty has already been issued, and he's confident the Academy has become aware by now. The elder, disturbed, has asked for clarification on the bounty. With a slight grin, Ashel has stated that Cyan has been tied to the Banquets of Blood and labeled as the mastermind behind an assassination network. Their crimes can all be pinned on him cleanly. Though the mage has claimed that turning against his brother brings him sorrow, he's convinced that eliminating him has become necessary for both justice and continental stability. This, he said, is simply divine will, an unavoidable path laid out by the god of light. Elsewhere, Lunav has entered a chamber where her grandfather has been waiting. She's demanded to know why he's come all the way to Luan. Reagan, taken aback by her lack of hesitation, has wasted no time and accused her of accompanying Cyan to the Nortelli ruins and assisting in the theft of the demonic scriptures. She's denied any involvement. The elder, enraged, has accused her of shielding our MC and unleashed a gravitational spell to pin her down. Despite the crushing pressure, she has stood firm, challenging the baseless assumption. Her resistance has surprised him. She's endured mana intensity far beyond his expectation. He's reminded her of her future within the Garam Association, warning her not to be ruled by sentiment. He has then amplified the gravity, forcing her closer to the floor, but she's had enough. She has cast the spell away and declared that he won't extract anything from her. He's hesitated for a beat before snapping his fingers, triggering an enchantment. Tendrils of magic have erupted from the walls, ensnaring her. He's declared that she won't even get the chance to regret this. She's asked whether he intends to kill her, but Regan has insisted that the association's future can't be discarded. Strange glyphs have flared along his arms, runes of Narasha. She's recognized his attempt to fracture her mind. The elder has vowed to erase the memories he finds useless, hoping to resurrect the version of her he once preferred. Meanwhile, Ashel has been stationed outside Cyan's royal quarters. He's sensed our MC's presence along with his allies. Turning to the Holy Sword, he has asked whether she can trace his location. She studied the sealed door and declared it wiped clean. Someone has purged every trace. Her mood has soured at the knowledge that this has been the residence of the one who insulted her, and she's promised quiet retribution. The mage, conceding that the interrogation strategy has failed, has reminded her that palace troops have already been dispatched. It's now a waiting game. She, skeptical, has muttered her distrust in humans and dismissed the delay as his problem to deal with. Elsewhere within the academy, the dean has just finished reading a sealed letter, muttering to himself about the complexity of the situation. Without warning, Luenel has barged into the room. The dean has greeted him with a cold stare. The visitor, unsettled, has accused him of harboring resentment, denying any friendliness between them. The dean has responded calmly, but Luenel has persisted, blaming him for cutting off Kizel's funding and poisoning his father's perception of him. The elder has refuted it again, claiming he only sought to prevent bloodshed. Fury has crept into Luenel's voice. He insists that others, Violet, Fabian, Nerovian, and Aaron, are all clawing for the throne and would stop at nothing to secure it. The dean has dismissed him as pathetic, telling him that the throne belongs only to those who've matured enough to lead, not to those who grasp for it. He's turned away, reminding the young man of his father's efforts to maintain peace and urging him not to unravel it. Luenel, with a bitter grin, has scoffed at the idea. He's pointed to the dean, accusing him of hypocrisy for raising a demon under his roof, and demanded Cyan's location. Before the dean could respond, Aaron has entered the chamber, startled to see Luenel present. She's admitted she had only come to inquire about our MC. The prince has rudely dismissed her, but the dean has promptly ordered him to leave, reminding him that she had requested this audience first. The younger man has protested his rank, furious over being made to wait. The dean has attempted to mediate, but the argument has escalated until Ashel has walked in and announced that the dorm has been found completely vacant. He's declared that Cyan now poses a threat to the Empire and urged the dean to cooperate. Aaron, horrified, has asked what he meant. The mage has explained that our MC has been implicated in the Banquets of Blood and the Exilium disaster, backed by a web of eyewitness testimony. He has turned to the dean again, asking whether the palace has sent him a letter. The elder has confirmed